All right, guys.
Welcome back.
Happy Monday.
Top of the top.
Yeah, it is December 11th. We got one more of these for the year, fellas. Time flies.
When you're having fun and going to 40 under 40.
You make a call like that, man.
Yeah, looking good on the red carpet, my boy.
That was a nice backdrop too. Shout out to the good folks over at Black Enterprise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, shout out to Black Enterprise, Selena Hill, the whole team. Yeah, definitely great event. Got to see a lot of our friends there. Eastside Golf and Derek Hayes.
Yeah.
Just see Derek. Yep.
A bunch of people. Megan Alexander.
That's right. Meg was on the shout out to Meg.
Okay, that's fine. Anthony O'Neill.
Anthony O'Neill for sure.
Did they call you up to speak?
I didn't speak. Just accepted the plaque. And
they should have a plaque in the burg of me.
Shout out to Jeezy. Got to chop it up with him. Good dude.
Yeah.
He had a fireside chat. So very impressed to see
he spoke?
Yeah.
Shout out to Young.
Okay.
Very impressed to see his growth from Travis Scott era.
The snowman branding.
Yeah, to see where he's at now, man. It's amazing. And just a testament to show you that everybody's possible of evolving. And some of the brightest business minds are just trapped in the wrong circumstances. So they use their talents for things that can cost them their life. But if given better opportunity, mentorship, then they could potentially be CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. I think that he's a perfect example of that, as far as everybody knows his history, as far as his previous occupation before music. But he still has that same level of work ethic and that same business. He actually talked about it yesterday, as far as the parallels between that life and what he's doing now. But now he just focuses on positive, and he's in entrepreneurship and be a best-selling author and a variety of other things. So he's killing the game in business right now. Yeah. He's very into business. He's very he's a sponge for information and knowledge. Very alert. So shout out to Jeezy.
And he's an optimist. He's definitely an optimist. He sees opportunity in things that people don't, man. Like when you just said that leading the boardroom or leading a company, like you could definitely see him as a head of a board for any company, any Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company. He just has that level of aura around him. Dope dude. Like you said, the growth is incredible. Shout out to y'all. And you went through all that. You even talk about his coat. Talk about the coat.
Oh, the coat was crazy. Coat was crazy. He had the trench coat, mink, Frank Lucas style, man. So yeah, shout out to Jeezy. And
shout out to Nasir too.
Yeah,
Nas got to be that dope.
Shout out to Nas. He was there. Yeah. My sister was there also. So
your pops?
Nah. But that was dope to have them there for sure. Nas put the suit on.
I saw he had the suit on.
Had to put the suit on. And before we start, want to give a big shout out to our family at United Masters and Ally. We had a dope event. Earn Your Masters this weekend. Fat Joe, legendary,
hilarious.
Dude's hilarious, man. He's another one, man. He's just reinvented himself. He's another one actually, who previous occupation has prepared him for what he's doing now. And just being a street guy, transforming into American sweetheart. He's like Snoop Dogg, like, you know what I mean? Like he's all over. Everybody loves Fat Joe. And a lot of people are young, so they don't really know the history, but Terror
Squad for a reason.
So, that's a fact. I told him, I said, look, man, you can run with a narrative, but
we know.
I know.
95% of what?
I know.
05 Miami South Beach. I saw him suplex a dude. Boy. I said, they not for play.
Man. Ask when Big Pun was chasing DJs around and putting them in the trunk of his car.
The van, yeah.
There's no longer a cotton club for a reason.
That's a fact. So, but shout out to Joe, shout out to Rich, shout out to the whole team, man. Just good dudes, man. A lot of great energy. And that was amazing. And we got to go to Chase event and see Ian speak as well, and that was really dope as well. Shout out to Chase, shout out to Nicole, to the whole advancing Black Pathways team. That was dope. It's good. Art Basel is becoming like a really, really big thing. So it's good to them have education inside of the Art Basel ecosystem. It's pretty dope. So
yeah, and I thought it was, what I thought was dope, Ian, that most people would think of you as the greatest investor of our generation, rightfully so. But they had you on a panel that was talking about building home wealth through home ownership, and you were diverse enough to even handle the topic so gracefully. So shout out to you, man, because it was like it felt effortless. You know what I mean? That means that you're studying not just your craft, but also other industry as well to help people build wealth through real estate too. I know, they're gonna ask you questions about stocks, but yo, you well deaf just like all of us are. So shout out to you, man. It was dope to pull up on you.
No, I appreciate y'all pulling up. Diversification is key. That's why I keep saying hold everything for 7 years. Even I'm looking at media landscapes, like most talk shows, Ricky Lake, Sally Jesse Raphael, Montel Williams, they had a 7-year run, took a little break, came back. Like once you study every business, it gets really easy to see the parallels in it. So yeah, I had a great time. Shout out to my family at JP Morgan. And thank y'all for pulling up.
For sure. So, all right, real quick before we start the show, big episode of Earn Your Leisure. This week we have my boy Loon, not the rapper, the podcaster.
Shout out to my guy.
Yeah, he's one of them ones, man. Shout out to It's Up There podcast. He has a very unique voice every time he speaks. One of the best when it comes to monologues. I respect the monologue. He's one of the best in the monologue game. He's been killing the game, man. Interviewed Dr. Umar recently at a live event in Tennessee. That was dope. He interviewed Little Baby, and he has a very unique perspective on podcasting and content creation. Somebody that came in the game
years ago.
As he said, he was like, you got to respect guys like us. Guys like us, like him, us, Ian, where we came into this game without fanfare. So a lot of people have become successful in this content creation game, and shout out to them, but they were already superstars in athletics. They're already superstars in music. So they come with a fan base, right?
Yeah.
But the people that had no fan base at all and really just built it from the ground up, that's even a more harder feat to pull off. If you really think of the top shows, almost all of them are people that are ex-musicians or ex-athletes that had millions of followers before this, right? So,
or comedians.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So he was like, yo, y'all really got to pay attention to the guys that started it from nothing, because we have more similarities to the general public than somebody who has already sold 1 million records, right? So shout out to Loon. That's a dope episode. Talked about a variety of different things, content creation and culture. That comes out tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Talk about the podcast base.
Yeah, for sure.
You're in trouble. You see, Adam's show closed up.
It's almost over.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, can't forget assets over liabilities. Today we got the legendary Cam Newton.
Yes.
Legend.
Shout out to our Revolt family, Cam Newton tonight, and then on Wednesday. And then the last announcement before we start the show, before Ian speaks, is Market Mondays Ghana. We're 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. So this is very important. We will be in the motherland on December 27th doing a live show. Now, Kevin O. Cherry. He is a billionaire, oil and gas titan from Ghana. He's one of them ones. Trust me. Do your research. We'll be speaking at Market Mondays Live in Ghana. For all of you naysayers that say, oh, well, why y'all only getting entertainers to speak and celebrities?
Voila.
Voila.
And behind the curtain.
All right. Okay. So
not again. See you in Ghana.
Another billionaire added. That's the 10th billionaire to either be on Earn Your Leisure Market Mondays or Invest Fest stage. Something that we've done tremendously. Have 10 billionaires over the course of a few years. But this is the first one that we actually have from the continent of Africa. So it's fitting that we actually speak to an African billionaire in Africa, a Ghanaian billionaire in Ghana, to be more specific. And he's the first black man to ever strike oil off the coast of Africa.
Ill story.
Yeah, his company, they hit it big time. Oil. So oil, and then for all you other naysayers that's like, well, why we keep talking about liquor companies and music? We need to have supermarkets and we need to have natural resources. Well, patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. What are you gonna say? Then I put on Instagram today, so everybody was like, "Yo, we need to have more like natural resources. We need to own natural resources." He's a billionaire. He's black. He's from Ghana, and he is an oil and gas titan. And somebody's like, "Well, oil and gas. Everybody's moving to EV." What can you do, man?
No, they're not.
No, they're not. Yo, that's what I said. I was just gonna say that.
What can you do, man?
There's a great piece. I think it's in the New York Times about the race between EV and natural gas. Like that's not going anywhere.
No.
You hear about autos, but there's so
Saudi
many other use
Arabia is
cases.
still printing money, man. That's why they
hand over fist
offering Mbappe $1 billion to play. But nevertheless, if you are in Ghana, on a more positive note, if you are in Ghana on December 27th, because a lot of people are going to be in town for Afro Future. Shout out to Abdul. They're just going to be in town. Right now, it'll probably be difficult to try to come to Ghana, to be honest with you. That's probably not going to happen. But if you're in Ghana on December 27th,
yes,
it is highly recommended that you go to the website right now and buy a ticket to come to the show. This is going to be a legendary situation. It's at Treehouse. It's going to be like poolside. It's a whole vibe that we've curated here. So, and we've been working very hard on this. Shout out to AB. Shout out to the whole team. December 27th. Get your tickets to Market Mondays Live, Ghana. We'll be speaking with, and it's not the only person that we're speaking with either. We got a few other people that's going to be coming.
The All-Star game.
All-Star team. So get your tickets, man. This is going to be one. We got the film crew. We're going to document this process because this is important. This is one of the most important things that we've done so far, to come back to the motherland and do a real production show. Market Mondays World Tour, legendary. Shout out to Ally, sponsored by Ally. Shout out to them.
Yes.
So yeah, get your tickets. We'll see you soon.
And the presentation will be back.
Presentation's coming back?
Yeah, real quick. I got to do it in the motherland.
I got another one.
Okay.
Chicago, I got another one. This is part of now. This is my 2 months of research on the company. By the time we get to Ghana, I'll have something ready for y'all with a price point. I know, before I show it on the screen, and I'm like, look, take the screenshot. This time I'm actually going to tell you what to do with it.
Watch the drip.
Please.
Follow the drip journey and go.
Please.
That's important.
Please.
All right, Ian, any announcements?
Stock Club call will be this Saturday at 3 p.m. Central. Stock Club price. Once again, shout out to my JP Morgan family for the amazing event with Advancing Black Pathways. And you podcasters needs to stop talking about views and let's start talking about net worth. Some of these shows getting wrapped up. Voila! What I tell you? If I made you money, please put yes in chat. Love y'all.
A lot of issues in the podcast space right now, but
a lot of stuff going on. Hey, I forgot to do this last week. Happy birthday to Magda. Magda, what's going on?
Yes.
EYLU zone. Just a foundational piece to the EYL family. So happy birthday. We missed it last week. It actually happened.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, Magda.
All right.
Happy belated to my guy Pierre.
Shout out to P. Shout out the whole team. Ian, they was all front row, man. You don't travel light, man.
You gotta have the supporters around, man. Shout out to Yomi being around. P, Angie. Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah, man. Y'all know how this works. Our content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It's very important to do your own analysis before making any investment based on your own personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with or independently research and verify any information that you find on our show and wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise. This is a message brought to you by the good brothers that earn your leisure. And the good brother, Ian Dunlap, the master investor himself. Continue to do the research, share the research, give credit to the person you found it from. Love is love. Spread community, spread joy, spread love.
All right, let's get into it. So it's been a good year. It's been a hell of a year for the stock market and the S&P, especially. S&P rose to a 20-month high. So with the soft landing in sight, any advice for those who missed out on this year's bull run?
Invest for the long term. I don't have a sexy, salacious answer. Stop waiting for the right time to get into the market. Listen to the advice given here on the show and buy every month. I think there will be a soft landing for those who are rich or well-to-do. And if you're underneath a certain income level per year, maybe less than 200, 300,000 a year, there won't be a soft landing. And I keep saying the market is rigged to permanently stay up. I know everyone has heard me say this before, but and we talked about this at the JP Morgan event, if you keep missing out on the right time to buy property, to buy crypto, to buy stocks, to buy businesses, you're going to get priced out. And if you wait for another 4 or 5 years, like next year will be the 4-year anniversary, talk about naysayers. Imagine how much money you would have now if you invested from the time the show started in March of 2020 through now. My biggest piece of advice is if you have missed this bull run, stop missing, invest every single month, put 50% of your money into the market, because whatever business you're in, you're not going to get 20% return on what you're investing in. Usually, Apple's up 50%, Amazon's up 75%, Nvidia's up, I think, 230% for the year. Quit missing out. Well, you don't need more advice. You need more books. I know y'all want Q&A to come back, the call-ins to come back. Call in and put in chat, how much money have you invested this year and what is your return? Just stop missing out on the bull run.
Stop missing out.
There's a big piece about just showing up and doing the work every day.
Yeah, that's great. When you just said that, I mean, the beginning of COVID, or what we kind of saw as the beginning almost 4 years ago, which is crazy. That's like that's a whole presidential cycle inside of itself. But you're right, man. That word soft landing, we've been talking about it all 2023. For some of the population, it is going to feel like that. And then when you look at the unemployment numbers from last week, like you said, it increased higher than they thought. And so there are, unfortunately, people who have lost jobs. Yeah. But this week will be very telling. I think when every month when we talk about those key economic indicators, CPI will be coming out this week. The Fed's going to talk about this week. There's a chance that interest rates might actually get lowered. From all predictions that they're saying maybe 3 to 4 cuts by the first half of next year.
That's needed.
Which is needed, right? And that can help people, having more money in their pockets when we talk about the price of inflation, the cost of the middle class population. You feel it. You definitely feel it. But for the stock market, when we're talking about rates being cut, this looks, if we're invested, like you said, if you've been investing since 2020 or even prior to that, when you hear interest rates are going to get cut, and you know that we talk a lot about companies that rely on lower rates, specifically in the technology sector, that's music to your ears.
To the moon.
You're thinking, oh, this is great, right? Because we know what happens when rates get cut. The price of operations go down. The price of employees, everything
goes down. The cost of capital goes down.
Everything goes down, which brings in more profit for the companies that you invest in. So the top 7, I mean, from all sides,
get bigger.
It's going to be a bigger year, and that's just for the first half of the year. They've even some of the projections for the second half are still outstanding, but the first half of the year, from everything that's being projected, it looks positive, man. Soft landing indeed for some of us.
And then when that ETF gets approved for Bitcoin, that's going to be really interesting, because now you're going to have mutual funds, hedge funds put money into it. I can argue that the S&P is going to have to get better returns going forward after the ETF. When you have the Halving event and the ETF, now NASDAQ is going to have to compete to be on par with the Bitcoin ETF. If not, all the money is going to go over to the ETF. So I'm going to be really interested to see what companies get dropped out of NASDAQ and which ones get dropped out of S&P 500 to make the value of those go up as well. So if you're investing for the long term, you're going to win. And how much more evidence do we need? We have 4 years of real-time advice here. If you're new to the show, welcome. VOO, VTI, Apple, Microsoft.
Yeah.
Those are only 4 you need.
I mean, even being added to the S&P, we saw a couple of companies being added. We recently saw Uber, and it was almost like, is it a benefit for a company to be added when we talk about it being part of mutual funds? And what are your thoughts around that?
I think it's amazing. It gives you more exposure. It makes the company have more money deployed into it, because now you're in all these funds and fund of funds. So it does raise the value. I know Zoom is going to get dropped out of NASDAQ here pretty soon, because they've been underperforming. And that's the great part. We've talked about it since the beginning. With an index, it's like an all-star team. If you're not playing up to par, you get removed off of the team and replaced with a better player. Zoom is underperformed. They'll be replaced. But when Uber gets added, and there's some others that'll get added in the next 2 years, it will help the company overall. But the one thing I want to stress is you see us do it every week. Like we had the show this past week. Tron Rashad came to my event. I came to theirs. They both get on the plane, go home. Rashad 40 under 40, do this, ask us over liabilities. They probably buying the waterways in Edgewater because Joe said something crazy. Keep working. And we will. A lot of people won't talk about it. I talked about it Saturday, but like, money won't buy you happiness, but it will bring you some joy to know that you have something going on in your life that you can be proud about. Yeah. Keep working, keep firing, keep executing.
That is the key. I was watching shout out to Mav Carter and Spring Hill, and he had an interview with Kim Kardashian. He was asking about, strategically, like, what was the plan? And her plan was like, do as much as I can right now, because I don't know if this season's there's gonna be a season 2. There might not be a season 2. So let me take as many opportunities as I can right now, and I'll figure it out. Some of these things will work, some won't, and I'll get better ideas. And so how do you keep working, right? When you think you're hot, keep going.
Absolutely. Don't take your foot off the gas. And that's the one thing I see across the board. People have some success and get comfortable. It's like, even with the tour coming to the end, I'm like, no, we got to plan the next thing and make this bigger. Keep grinding, keep deploying capital. And for all my traders, we'll talk about it maybe next week. A lot of the Forex platforms are blowing up, which goes to tell you a lot of people are not winning in some of those cases, and the companies were not managing the funds. We talked about the other prop firms that were blowing up. Things are getting tighter, but guess what? Cost of capital went up, so you can't give customers all this capital. Be very careful.
Be mindful, for sure. All right, let's talk about AI, shall we? So, do you think that Google's Gemini will be able to compete for the throne when it comes to AI dominance? Everybody's talking about ChatGPT forever, for the last year. It seems like that's been a nonstop conversation is ChatGPT. And there's Bart was into the conversation, and there was a variety of other companies that have come into this conversation. But Google's Gemini, is that going to be something that's going to take over? Because they're all kind of similar, right? They're all like personal assistant type of ChatGPT chat box type things, right? Similar. So what makes one better than the other? And why would Google's reign supreme?
I don't know if it would take over the throne, but this is the first one that is like multimodal truly. So in the demo, the guy's like drawing a figure and the AI is telling him in real time what he's drawing. So to be able to take video, see what you're writing, give you feedback, I'm like, oh, this is close to Jarvis from Iron Man. Of course, I'm really big on investing in the leader in the space. But when I saw this, I'm like, this is the first product that Google got right in a long time on its first iteration. Like you said, Rashad, Bard is similar. There's a whole bunch of AI chatbots that are available right now that are basically like knockoffs of OpenAI's ChatGPT. This was the first one that was like a step up. Kind of like when Steph came into the game and he had handles and he can shoot from anywhere. This felt like that kind of evolutionary jump in AI. I don't know if it would take the throne. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but the demo was pretty amazing. And one thing about Google, whatever they do put in the demo, usually does come to life in the actual product. So I'm excited to see what is there in the future.
I don't know if it takes over the throne. It's probably the best competitor for a number of reasons. I think you spoke about it, that being multimodal module, meaning that it can have the ability to compute images, videos, and audio inside of the platform. Even when you look at a ChatGPT, yes, it's predominantly language based, and you can use language, and you can use image and you can use video, but it has to go through a plugin. And shout out to Keys. I was showing them some of the images that were created in ChatGPT because it was aware of who he was, but you have to use DALL-E 3 in order to do it. And that takes time for it to upload, maybe not like 10 seconds. It takes about 2 minutes, which is still fast. And then you have to use Whisper if you're using audio. Whereas Google has the advantage of having that all in-house. There's no plugin. It's inside of the platform itself. It's seamless. What it also is inside of is the Google brand, right? So you can seamlessly see it being integrated into YouTube, into Google Chrome, into Google Drive,
Gmail,
all of that. Whereas in ChatGPT, it's a website, it's an app, it's not seamlessly integrated into one thing. Then you talk about the data and the amount of users. And I was having this conversation. Where were we? Were we on a plane? When I was like, yo, look at how many users that the brand Alphabet has when we look at all of their platform, right? We talk about Android all the time, but you have billions of people on Android.
Absolutely.
You have billions of people using YouTube, and you have billions of people on Chrome. When you take all those data points, can a company like Microsoft, when it comes to Bing, as far as a search engine, compete with it in terms of data? No way, right? And ChatGPT, obviously OpenAI has partnered with Microsoft, and I know there's the EU is looking into the monopoly that's been created, but they have the data points, and their data is only going to get larger because of the reliance that we have on it as a search engine, but also from the standpoint of a channel, right? It's probably the most popular channel in the world, right? We don't consider it as that, but I mean, when you think about where people are watching things, especially a younger population, it's YouTube. And so they have all these data points and all these points of integration without the use of a plugin. I like them as the best competitor.
And they have what, 35% of all the world using their product in some form. Like, you can't compete against those numbers. And that's why I keep saying the biggest companies on earth are going to continue to get bigger. Somebody this weekend was like, hey, I'm interested in this company. What's the best way to invest in it? I'm like, buy Microsoft or Google, because at some point they're going to buy or have a partnership with them. So the rich are going to get richer. The biggest companies are going to get bigger. But I am excited about this iteration that Google has for the AI product. And I like the name better. Gemini is a little bit smoother than ChatGPT.
The Winklevoss twins are coming into the chat. They're saying, what? Hey, what, Gemini?
Well timed. Well timed.
Now the rollout, the video, they said that wasn't the actual product. That was a bit messy, but we forgive Google for that. We can forgive them. Like,
sometimes you got to swerve into somebody else's lane and take a little bit of, cachet.
Yeah. They mixed it up. That GTA rollout, they probably felt pressure, It's all right.
I had to throw some out real quick.
Flush it out.
Grand Theft Auto,
the #1 viewed trailer of all time.
Shout out to
really
of all time.
What, Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, 6. Yep.
Yeah.
Shout out to LeBron too and the Lakers for winning the in-season tournament.
You had to get that in there.
Season tournament, yeah.
Nah, shout out. I mean, you can't compete with that, right? The first to ever do it.
MVP.
That's a fact.
Another
legendary. This is what, 21st year?
21st year.
That's crazy, bro.
Pretty ridiculous.
That's crazy.
700 million is ridiculous too. We'll probably talk about that later. 700 is crazy. 700.
Yes.
He passed LeBron's career earnings in one day.
2024, no back ends. We need all our money up front.
Yo, no net.
I don't want to talk about no splits. No net 30. It's over with.
Now, somebody print
Send
that up
all right now. Yes.
700.
Oh, we're going to tell our audience to never go. I'll send many emails as y'all want to. Net now.
Please.
Respectfully. All right, let's talk about crypto. XLM, Stellar Loomis. So can you talk about why you like XLM and the possibilities of events after Bitcoin halving?
It's a question that got asked me on Twitter, and I think it's a great question. I'm going to keep hanging my hat on, as I have been, Bitcoin, XRP, and Ethereum. XLM, I think, is cool, but after the halving, I think the price is going to shoot up, of course, but the ETF is going to be the catalyst that matters most. So would there be an ancillary effect where other coins get dragged up as a result? Yes, we've seen that the past 2 or 3 months. But after the halving event, plus when the ETF gets passed, that's when I think Bitcoin is really going to take a rise. I'm really interested to see if they can hit like 66,000 by August or September. If so, they'll be at a good pace to break 100,000 by 2025. And if so, I think it will be off to the races from there. That's a really key resistance point if they'll be able to break through that and stay above that. But XLM, I don't have in my top 8 right now. I'm really just focused on Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum. But after the halving event, Bitcoin should rise a ton. I'm not the most aforementioned Bitcoin expert. I did call to go to 16,000. 20,000. It's double since then. If I made you money, please put yes in chat. We need to stop having conjecture about takes and how things are said. Just, did you apply? Did you win?
Conjecture.
That's all that matters.
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
Stellar. It's crazy because Stellar was one of those coins that we had in 2017. I remember. I think you was what country? You might have been in Singapore when I called you. Like, yo, we got to get home. You got to get home. There's this thing I got to tell you about. And everybody had been talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm like, no, these are other coins that we got to look into. And Stellar was one of them. So we still have some lumens from 2017. But it's a critical time. There's a lot of new projects being put into this place. And so Stellar right now is going through probably the most significant upgrade in the history of its coin. They're moving from a new protocol, which is going to allow it to have functionality in terms of making smart contracts, which it wasn't able to do before. And so there's a lot going into that. And if it doesn't work, it's a lot riding on the project. If it doesn't work, forget top 8. We're talking about something that could be that won't be mentioned, right? Like there was plenty of news going around it. Yeah, I mean IBM was backing it, and then now you don't hear any more news about that. So it's a critical time for Stellar. I'm just holding. Like I said, since 2017, we've had it. If it works, I've seen price predictions going up to 30 cents, which is I think 100% increase from where it's at now. So if people are investing in it, or if they have it, hold it. It's a critical time. Over the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to see how this protocol gets rolled out, and if they have the ability to make smart contracts. I know there's some NFT innovation that they wanted in the project as well, from everything I read in the white paper. So we'll see. If it gets to 20,
IBM is backing it.
Yeah, I haven't heard news about that in a while.
So we'll see. I want to ask a question. I do want to do my power rankings, my city power rankings at one point in the show, but I want to.
That'd be great.
I want to ask, we're in a political climate that's, very turbulent right now, to say the least, and it's an election coming up next year. So, is democracy overrated?
Yes. Well, we don't live in a democratic state. We live in a republic.
Well, is the concept of democracy is American? Is American democracy overrated?
Yes, it's overrated. The trickle-down effect is overrated. It's never worked well for us specifically. It's never worked well. But I think the concept of democracy is a noble one, but one that has not been executed well and has never been favorable. We wouldn't have a lot of the injustices that we have, and like we said before, a lot of the issues that white America is feeling right now with the opioid epidemic, crime going up, the issues in San Francisco, pay being lower than ever. That's stuff we've been going through the last 100 years. It's now just on our doorstep. If democracy worked, we wouldn't have some of these issues. So yes, democracy is overrated, and it's never really worked for us anyway.
For sure. I think democracy is overrated for sure. It's overrated for a variety of different things. As you said, it's really not set. It's not the idea of everybody has equal power and we can, it's a good idea in theory, but that's not the case, right? The rich have more power, lobbyists control the government, you can
Pharma controls TV.
So nobody really there's no equal power shared. So that's kind of like a myth. And I feel that this idea of democracy is a European idea that has been posterized by America and shipped and forced all over the world. Once again, it's a lot of different things that American culture has normalized, and we think that anybody that does anything separate from that is uncivilized or not, modern society. But somebody was like, I was talking to somebody before, and they was just like, even if you look at Africa, democracy is not something that's native to Africa's kingdoms, monarchies, right? And it was like, when the West came and they actually purposely destroyed the monarchies and forced a system of democracy on African nations. But that was really just to, break down a power structure and to make sure that the European countries and America maintain control in Africa, right? Because they could prop up corrupt leaders and they could have coups and they can kind of replace whoever they felt wasn't going to, be best for their interest. So they systematically depowered the kings and kingdoms, and they empowered a system of democracy, but that hasn't worked for any country in Africa for the most part. And then you look at other countries, like I said, we'll talk about the power ranking, but you look at countries like the UAE, and we have a monarchy in place and it's working. So it's like, okay, if you have absolute power, that's gonna be extremely dangerous if somebody's a bad leader. But nobody's ever talks about what if they're a good leader? Then it's actually beneficial, right? Because like you can't get anything done in a system where you just constantly have to fight amongst each other, and then somebody has to pay you, and then you can't say what you really want to say, because if you say what you want to say, then the lobbyists are gonna run ads against you and cancel you, and so you're kind of beholden to whoever has the most money. And so it's like in that system, we might as well just not even have politicians, just have the businessmen. It's like just have a race, whoever has the most money, just run the country.
Yeah,
that's what it is now anyway. So just have like a small table of the richest people in America and in the world, and just have them run the country, because that's already what's currently happening, right? With the gaze of that the people elect, and it's free elections, and it's really not. Even electoral college, it actually makes no.
Yeah, that's a
joke.
So it's like, it's so many different things. And once again, I think it's important just to kind of have these conversations, because I just feel like a lot of times we live in a bubble in America. And once again, we think our way is the only way. And it's really not. And that leads to us trying to force our culture and force what we have, or actually what's been forced on us, to other people. And I think it's important to maintain open mind and not be so quick to criticize things, especially things that we don't fully understand.
Especially if our country is broken. And we're falling behind. We can, like you said, we can argue the hedge funds, banks, and pharma runs the country right now. It's just a veneer of democracy and elections, but they really run the table. Like when you have people who are afraid, and even in an interview with Kyrie's mom, like Kyrie was demonized as if he said something bad to an actual president of the United States over what he said became out to be true.
Well, you
That's
have
the crazy part.
It's a very embarrassing time right now for America, because now it's a variety of different things that's happening on the world stage, and it's not looking good for America, and it's becoming more and more obvious, and from political leadership to corruption to a variety of different things. And I think social media has provided a platform for more and more people to see different things outside of just traditional media. And now you can see how biased and how corrupt traditional media is too. So this is a very interesting time in world history. It's a very embarrassing time for America for a variety of different reasons. And it's falling apart. To be honest with you, it's definitely falling apart, because the infrastructure is literally falling apart. Our respect in the world is decaying. Our influence is decaying, and it's only so long that you can rely on your military might and your power when it comes to monetary money, because we still have the strongest military, we still have the strongest economic system. So it's kind of like a bully approach, where you can just kind of muscle your way through, even if people don't like you. They'll still deal with you, but it's only so long that can last. That's not really the best way to go about it. Eventually, you're gonna have some people that actually do like you, like some real allies. And I don't know if we have too many.
What if you're able to innovate at the level that forces people to not even like you, but have to tolerate you, right? So when you look at the wealthiest companies in the world, if you look at the top 10, how many of them are American?
All of them.
Outside of Saudi Aramco, right? So if you think that in the next 20 to 50 years, can we see a reversal, or other countries coming inside of that top 10 or top 5? Like one specific, right?
I believe so. And
you think?
Yeah. Maybe 10th. And I think that's why BRICS is so important, because if you begin to put your resources together, then you can begin to build something. Tel Aviv's startup market is very interesting as well. Got to keep your eyes there. I know Spotify's had some issues, but what Daniel created at Spotify was interesting before the labels took it over and got 30% of that business. I think if we don't get our affairs in order and start to do better business and take care of our citizens, there will be room. And I'm seeing a lot of people start to say, hey, I don't think you're that crazy to go to Mexico or to live somewhere else primarily and then come back. Those conversations are happening a lot more amongst our community more now than ever.
I think I probably 2 weeks ago, I sent you an article. I think we had just came back from the UAE, and we heard Ray Dalio speak, and he was like, they've got it right here. It's hard for me to say, but over the past 30 years, there's few places in the world that are getting it right. They're getting it right here. And he was talking about the summit, the financial summit in UAE. But then a week later, you see Morgan Stanley, you see the Rothschild, they're going into Abu Dhabi and trying to figure out how they can set up shop and begin banking in these areas. And now it's like, all right, well, they're in Abu Dhabi. Well, there's a race. Who's going to go to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia? Because that's the next place we have to go. And so
you just seen Saudi.
One last thing. It was, now we look at what Apple's now done with India, right? Where they're saying, all right, well, a quarter of our phones, which is the main market driver for our business, we're going to have made there. So you're starting to see we're spreading this thing out from businesses for sure and financial institutions are starting to spread this thing out from a global aspect rather than saying we're just going to rely on our American dominance.
Have to.
Well, you saw Saudi Arabia offered 30 years tax-free haven
exactly
for any company that relocates their Middle Eastern division to Saudi. So I don't necessarily know if it's going to be difficult for companies to just take over that top 10 spot, but all these companies are global companies, so they could be an American-based company. But I mean, if they're based in another country, if their major workforce is in another, which is already kind of the place now. Even, Tim Cook, when he said before, as far as, they asked him about, this is another reason, it doesn't really matter if an Apple's is an American company. If their workers are in China and they asked them in front of Congress, they said, what's it going to take for you to bring your workforce back to America? It's impossible. It's not going to happen.
Impossible.
When you look at the cost of labor, when you look at unions, when you look at so many different things, health insurance, variety of different stuff, it's like the cost that it would cost to
$5,000 for an iPhone.
No, it's not. He's like, it's not going to happen. So it's like, all right, they're still American companies and they still pay taxes in America, but they're going to be, more workers in other countries. There's going to be more headquarters in other countries. There's going to be a variety of different things. So the American company thing will probably still stay because it's difficult to kind of take that away. But I don't think that's a determining factor.
But inside is that another way to spread dominance?
Is what another way?
Planting your flag in different countries. Obviously,
you have to.
You're spreading from a global aspect, right? Because it's a global economy, but you're planning inside of your business, there'll be infrastructure, there'll be customs that will become Americanized, right? So we're talking about the playing field. What does that look like when you're now in India and now it's right? Well, we're doing it this way, right? There's customs that we're accustomed to things that are happening in this country, but now we have our business here. Here's a new way to spread dominance. It starts.
If companies don't have international exposure, they're going to be at risk for falling apart over the next 5 or 10 years. No one wants to say it, but we are in a tougher, tighter climate. You need the international customer base. I'm going to be honest. As soon as we start getting, because at first it was like, I wish we had a black platform that talked about investing. Here we come. A year later, we get demonized. As soon as we start to get demonized, I said, let me go to a country where they won't demonize me. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. And then I'll see y'all make your UAE play. Well played. Y'all gonna melt when they move over there full time. Shout out to Steve. Y'all go, what happened?
All pun intended.
Big pun.
All the energy is in Africa and Asia right now.
Absolutely.
That's where you see Putin begging women to have babies. Negative birth rates in Russia. Negative birth rates all throughout Europe. They haven't been able to get their system of governance correct. They have a huge problem with immigration. America, a variety of different problems. You name it, there's a problem. And where you see positive birth rates and growth, you see it in Africa. You see it in, different parts of Asia. Asia is a big continent, but of course, India, the subcontinent of India, is about to take over China as far as their population is concerned. They're about to be the most populated country in the world, growing middle class. What UAE is doing is amazing. Saudi Arabia is remaking the whole entire country. You talk about a country where 10 years ago women weren't even allowed to have driver's license, and now they're hosting sports events. They got music concerts and do everything. Like they actually it's actually been pretty remarkable what they've been able to do over the last decade quietly. So I think it'll be, very unwise for you not to pay attention to the global landscape and realize that heck, it's been a hell of a run in America. It's not like it's going to burn. I don't want to be like a doomsday scenario. America's still going to be here. Just like the UK. Like at one point in time, they said the sun never set on the British Empire. British Empire was the strongest thing ever. It conquered everything from the Caribbean to Australia, and everything all over the world was conquered by Britain at one point in time. Pretty remarkable for a very small country. But their dominance has waned, and they're no longer as strong as they were. They're still a strong country. Obviously, they have a lot of influence, but nobody's looking at the British Empire like the most feared thing in the world anymore. They're not. So I think it's a soft landing. soft landing for America's dominance.
Yeah. No, go ahead, finish now.
So it's not something that's going to be like a doomsday situation, but I think we're already on pace to not have the strongest economy soon. So that'll go, and then other countries will come into play, and it'll be more even as opposed to just having one dominant player that's just kind of bullying his way through. Now you just have more even players at the table. And I think that's actually beneficial.
Yeah, I think, Ian, for some people to listen, like, well, yeah, we do have the best companies in the world. I think there was a post you put up maybe earlier last week about the amount of debt that the country also has, which is completely ridiculous. So, like, yeah, we have the greatest companies, yeah, but we also have amassed the largest debt, I think, in mankind.
Absolutely.
Like,
it's insane.
It's ridiculous.
All right.
Yeah, and no one wants to fix anything level. Maybe we can talk about that on the 15th. I won't say nothing else. Debt is high. Americans aren't happy. And Rashad, I think you're saying it. UAE is the new USA. All the promise of the United States seems to be in the Middle East right now. And even in Apple having to go to India because the relationship with China got strained because of the geopolitical concerns, we are building up India's middle class. And the same issue we went through with China in 10 or 15 years, we're going to go through with India again. We need to learn our lesson. I don't think it's wise that we don't have enough money to pay you a fee. This is like $439,000, insane. But we can send all these jobs over to India and send our best and brightest over there as well. It's never going to pan out well. But what do we know? Nothing but everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheap labor.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, we will be monitoring the situation. And okay, so we have a special guest that will be joining us soon. But before she comes on, then we got time for like probably one more question. Okay, so a bill has been introduced that would prevent hedge funds from owning single family homes in the United States. Do you think this will pass?
Absolutely not, but I love it, the idea. There's no way in hell. Shout out to Ross Mack, who was just with Ken Griffin the other night. Ken probably is going to build the biggest mega mansion in Miami, from what I'm hearing. I think the real estate investment space and buying these up personally are not good for the average citizen. It's not going to be good for our debt to GDP ratio. It's not going to do good for like any consumer sentiment. But I kept saying, like, if the gains are Magnificent Seven, there's not enough money for every hedge fund to deploy capital there. And if you're going to like Russell 2000 stocks to outperform the market, your client may not like that. Go into real estate as a hedge. Talked about it at the event with JP Morgan, but people don't know Berkshire owns 14,000 doors quietly. So even if their portfolio in stocks goes down, people are going to have to still pay rent regardless. I understand why the hedge funds and fund of funds have went to the space, but they've driven the price up for the average consumer too much. I don't think the bill will be passed, but I think there does need to be a provision to stop some of this from happening for sure. Like, we should not be competing against BlackRock, Blackstone, and Vanguard. Shout out to Vanguard, my family. I love y'all. If you're in the real estate business, they should not be your primary competitors. But it drives me back to my point. Everyone on earth is your competitor. You just don't know it yet.
The answer is 100% no, like you said. And it's a Democratic initiative. And we already know how this works. When it's Democratic, it's Republican. I mean, it's just a mess, right? So the bill's aim is to not only ban hedge funds from amassing large portfolios of single-family homes, but also to force them to sell off their portfolio. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
Right? So the bill will require hedge funds to sell at least 10% of the total number of single-family homes they currently own to families per year over a 10-year period. After the 10-year full phase is out, all hedge funds will be completely banned from owning any single-family homes. Even them selling 10%. I mean, what market price do they have to set for it? Does it make it more affordable now that they can sell them? Probably not. Probably not. And so, again, this is something on the premise, the idea of it, yeah, that makes sense, right? Like, for somebody that's trying to get their first home or somebody who's trying to get an investment property, the average person, to compete with financial institutions that have billions, it's not it's not a fair playing ground. So yeah, maybe some legislation, but this ban, I can't see it happening.
Going back to there's no democracy. If we were living in a true democratic state, we would never have monarchs of the United States be able to do this.
Right. Like you're trying to buy a home and they're trying to buy your neighborhood. It's a totally different playing field.
Yes.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why the real estate market has not really, crashed. And that's one of the reasons why, housing is becoming more and more unaffordable. Rents are going up. And it's going to be an interesting stay. I think at some point in time, you have to have some legislation that's put in place, because if not, then every single home in America will be owned by a hedge fund or a major financial institution. And everybody's going to be forced to be a renter anyway.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of homes on the market in a variety of different places in America, which is also causing home prices to go up.
Great point.
So being that there's not enough homes actually on the market, there's a housing crisis currently.
That's a fact.
There's already a housing crisis. People saying like that there's going to be a housing crisis coming, but there's already a housing crisis. And there's if you graduated college, you're 25 years old, like where are you going to live? If you live in any metropolitan area, like how are you going to live?
So here's the question, because I'm glad you said that. That's an excellent point. I was just doing the research on this. There is a housing crisis, and there potentially could be people are actually finding out that the government of the United States and a lot of financial institutions are encouraging underbuilding. Right. So if you underbuild, that means there will be less homes, which means that now those homes that are in existence, I can now raise the price on. So if a hedge fund is owning, let's say 14,000 homes and it's underbuilding happening, those 14,000 homes are going to increase over time, 15, 20 years. Right. So this is like a real thing that people are not paying attention to.
Y'all better go to Gravedigger Mountain with NBA Youngboy. Or Wyoming, Ohio, Iowa, Nebraska. Y'all gonna have to hit some of these places that are not as popular. Like even finding locations for what's next. So like in 2014, when I made the decision to move to Houston, low state income tax, business was booming. Now Mexico, now you guys in UAE, got to make my way there. Like you are always gonna have to find what's the next point to skate to. And keep investing. This is another reason I say. So you're not going to buy a house. You're not going to buy crypto. You're not going to buy stocks. You're not going to buy business. You're going to make a podcast and your podcast is going to fail. Man, invest in what's working. Everybody put it in the chat. Man, investing is so simple. It's the easiest thing on earth to do. If the rent market, like the reason the housing prices will never drop is because so many businesses and hedge funds are in it. They have to set a level for a true support level for institutional buy-in. And even if those hedge funds sell off 10%, they aren't going to do anything but make another company that's not tied to them to buy the properties back and sell them at profit. Like, or Blackstone to sell to BlackRock. Okay. So wiki game, but what can you do?
What happens to the other 90% though, right? If the mandate is they have to send at least 10%, what happens to the other 90%?
Oh, well, that's where the lobbying power comes in.
Like, okay, I'll sell 10%. Okay.
Yeah. Money to get power, power to protect the money. The Medici family rule.
Money makes the world go round. That's a
absolutely
fact. Okay. So one last thing before we bring our guest on, let's talk about regulators caught Wells Fargo and other banks in a probe over mortgage pricing discrimination, staying in line with the real estate conversation. What are your thoughts, and what changes will come as a result of this?
I want to ask an honest question. How is Wells Fargo still in business? Like they are operating like Omar from The Wire for the last 15 years. Shout out to Wells Fargo. I don't want any drama. Yada yada. Let me put on my cape. But how are they still in business? Now, if you go look at the origin of Wells Fargo, how they began, go Google who is their founder and how did the company come about. They've had a nefarious history since the founding of the company. But do I think changes will be brought about? No. Every bank discriminates. But they seem to be a little bit more egregious in their discrimination and opening accounts and opening up credit cards. And I'm even hearing stories of home equity lines of credit being opened up allegedly for people that have passed. So this is one of the reasons I've never liked the stock. Don't like the way the company's been ran. Those of you who work there, I know these issues were forced upon you. So I'm not casting any aspersions about your character if you work there, but I have no clue how Wells Fargo is still in existence after all the bullshit they've done the last 15, 20 years. That is public. Like, if this is known about publicly, what is happening that we don't know about?
A whole lot.
Like, could you imagine how much trouble we would get in if we just, everybody on YouTube, we open up a Red Panda and the EYLU account and charge them for it? We would have been screaming the Fat Joe thing. Please don't. Please don't.
please
don't.
Please don't. No,
please don't.
Please don't.
What? How are you getting away with this for this long?
Please don't.
Shout out to Joe Crack. Great rebrand too. That's when you know the money coming in. When you take away the hood tales, like, no, those weren't true. Those were not true at all.
Yeah, man.
Gotcha.
Allegedly. I mean, the stories of Wells Fargo have been well documented, especially over the past 2 years. I mean, this is national news, man. Yes. National news. We've spoken about it. We've had Matt, and he came on and he spoke about it from that standpoint. I mean, what do we expect change? That would be the real question. Do we expect change?
No.
Right? Like, there'll be a racial and inclusion division that'll be added. There'll be some programs that are allocated for people of color. Like, that'll be the change.
And then Jamie Dimon, shout out to my Chase family. Y'all can tune out the show.
Yo.
And then Jamie Dimon goes on and be like, well, it's for criminals and it's pirates. And I'm like, but y'all gonna be in on the ETF. Like, we can look and see how much you have invested into Bitcoin at the moment. Like, this is in 2008. People are wiser than ever. Like, but maybe he's setting up his presidential run. But it's crazy to talk your book because they backed Ethereum, but then say that you would shut Bitcoin down, but you have the Ethereum partnership.
Yeah, is it one of these things where it's he's going to talk that in public, but the risk of not having some type of allocation is too great to pass.
It's too high.
It's too great, right? Like,
it's too high.
You don't want to be the person or the institution that, oh, no, we didn't believe in it, and we're not putting any capital to allocate towards it.
Because if the ETF prints 30 to 50% return per year at a time when the economy needs like you had ARC and then that fell off, you need a catalyst or like a primary driver of high returns. You can't be the firm that misses out on your watch.
So can't do it. You think when he said that, if anybody that's familiar with Jamie Dimon, he spoke in front of Congress, and they were speaking to a lot of different, bank CEOs about regulation, stuff like that. And he was saying that if it was up to him, if he was running the government, he would pretty much put a ban on Bitcoin, crypto. So why do you think that he said that? Do you think that he's serious about if that's what he really would do, and they're just buying Bitcoin because they have to be competitive in the space, but he really does not believe in it, doesn't think that it's been something that's beneficial for society?
Two reasons. If something is outperforming you have to demonize it to give reason why you're not doing as well. I see it all the time with us. I don't like the way Ian talks about XYZ. It's up 300%. What difference does it make how I talk about it? But if you demonize me and say, well, he's arrogant and Rashad and Troy not for the culture, and we turn them into celebrities, but I'm only getting you 3%, you'll be able to pull over 1% of the audience on that message. Number two, I think he's setting up his presidential run, and he want to tell the banks that are going to back him, if I get in office, I'll make sure that you have protection in place so that this ETF or that this asset class does not overperform you for the next 5 or 10 years. Now, does he believe it? I don't think he'll ever do that because he needs it in his backing for sure. And we need a lot more innovation. So, but kudos to Jamie Dimon. I think we've probably been the best banking CEO over the last 15 years, but I don't like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. They had a poll. It was talking about the top 10 most valuable assets in the world, and number 1 was gold, number 10 was Meta, and number 9 was Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could you not be a part of investing in something that's in the top 10 of the most valuable assets in the world?
How was Meta an asset?
Well, they're talking about the valuation of the company.
Valuation, yeah.
So Apple was number 2, but Bitcoin was number 9.
Yeah, and if they wouldn't have deployed all that money into the metaverse, they probably would have been 6th.
Yeah, 50 billion.
Yeah.
I wonder how much they got to. They probably, it was only 2 years in before you decided, like, we got to change this. So they probably never got to the 50. Maybe they got to somewhere around 10.
35, something like that. Maybe.
That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, that's tough. He tried it though.
35.
Yeah, that's tough.
All right. Well, we have a guest, so
Yes.
bring our guest on.
Let's not keep it waiting.
If we can.
Hello, guys.
Hey,
Here we
how's it
go.
going?
Hey, how you doing?
Kudos to the queen. Appreciate you being here.
Super happy to join you guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays
as
too.
well.
Happy holidays. How's it going?
Excellent.
Okay. So yes, we have Eboni K. Williams, and today will be joining us. And we have a lot to talk about. I wanted to, well, first and foremost, thank you for coming on.
Oh,
You know, you're very esteemed lawyer. He has Judge Show, has been on, you know, everything from CNN to the Breakfast Club, author, and somebody that, you know,
Podcast host
has been the voice of reason.
Yeah,
Voice of reason.
we're putting that in the bio. Adding that to the bio.
Take that asterisk right there. I like that.
That's a fact. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here, guys. I remember running into at least 2 out of the 3 of y'all right outside of I think it was Revolt Summit a couple years ago in Atlanta. So it's really nice that we finally were able to make this happen. I'm excited.
Yes, for sure. So I want to start out with a question that we've kind of talked about a lot, but you being a lawyer and you having a judge show and, you know, having a legal background, right? I think it's interesting to talk about when we talk about finances a lot. How do we navigate marriage, right? We always talk about prenups, talk about you know, alimony, child support. You know, how I look at it is marriage is really a legal contract, and it's going to be either the best financial decision that you'll ever make because you get tax benefits, you buy into incomes, there's so many different benefits with that, or it's going to be the worst financial decision that you're ever going to make because you're going to have to give up half of your money if you get a divorce, and then you're going to have to pay child support, and you got to split your 401k. So yeah, for people that are navigating that, I want to start with that conversation.
Absolutely. So it is not the most romantic sentiment you will hear, but it's exactly as you say. Marriage is essentially a business transaction. Now, you would like to for sure frame that transaction within the construct of romantic love, physical attraction, all those other romantic elements. But let's be very extremely fucking clear. I hope you can cuss on this podcast because I'm going
Don't worry, you can.
Okay, definitely. Let's be fucking very clear. It is at its onset and certainly at its expiration. And I do mean expiration. We talk a lot about divorce in worst case scenarios when it comes to financial destruction of marriage, but we also need to talk about death, right? Because that can also lead to some surprises on the back end of a marriage. So it is a joint endeavor that leaves you, in the eyes of the government, jointly liable for your assets and your liabilities. I believe you guys are assets over liabilities, right? So here we go.
This is true.
Yeah. So that's what it is, right? So I often tell people when they're thinking about, you know, I'm in love. I always say this too, again, not romantic, right? But love and marriage don't really have as much to do with one another as people may imagine. Because what we know for sure is that you can be in love, you can be in companionship, you can even be in partnership and not be married. You can also be very much married and not in love. So I think it's really important that when we think about is marriage for us individually, and I think it starts with that individual assessment and evaluation. And then is marriage an ideal next step in this relationship that we're sharing with someone ideally that we love and care about? I often think of this analogy, and I came to this conclusion after my divorce, which was about 12 years ago now. So I had what I call a starter marriage in my late 20s. I was married and divorced within a year and a half, around the age of 27. And when I came out of that marriage, guys, you know, it was very clear to me that part of why it didn't work was, and there were a lot of reasons, but from the business aspect, I'm really more of a sole proprietor. So like, think about this. If you're going to go open a business tomorrow, are you somebody that would invite and more or less enjoy a joint venture? Would you like someone else to think through the logo, the color scheme, the marketing plan, the copywriting? Do you enjoy the collaborative nature of making big decisions and executing big things and small things alongside someone else? If so, a joint venture would probably be your preferred business structure. Thus, I think marriage similarly could be an ideal construct for you. But if you are like me and you are someone that really enjoys the executive exclusive power of the decision making, you don't, I'll take what you think into consideration, but ultimately, let's be clear, I'm going to be making the ultimate decisions here, and this is the. But then you probably are somebody that if you were starting a business, you probably want to venture into a sole proprietorship, right? So like I'm the CEO of Eboni K. Williams, LLC. I'm the CEO and founder of Uppity Productions, which is my production company. So I have chosen for a reason not to pursue a business partner, probably for the same reasons that I have chosen, at least at this point in life, not to pursue a business partner. And I think just thinking of it in that terms can be helpful for people when they're really deciding around marriage.
See, so like that's the interesting part, right? Because we're seeing, and I've had this conversation amongst my male friends, we're seeing a lot of women, specifically Black women, that have pursued business and have not been able to find love in marriage. Not saying that is necessary, but we're seeing it at an increase. So talk around that, because I know the last time you spoke around the pursuit of career and marriage, there was some controversy. But is it possible?
Me?
No, not you. But is it possible? The likelihood of finding both or having to choose one or the other. Thoughts around that?
So again, this is so individual, and I want to be clear. So oftentimes the controversy you speak of course, we're talking about bus driver gate, my now infamous conversation with Jan Levanzant, where I was, of course, asked, would I date a bus driver? And my answer was, if he owned the bus. Now, there was a lot of subtext to that, but essentially what I'm communicating very unapologetically, and I stand 10 toes down on it today in this conversation and probably for eternity, I would ideally like to partner romantically with a man who is similarly positioned, not just fiscally. So we're talking about income, because a lot of the kind of reaction and retort and pushback to my statement was, well, Eboni, there are bus drivers that earn a significant amount of money. And in some big cities, depending on who you drive the bus for and the capacity, there are absolutely $175,000 a year bus drivers. That is true. I knew that before that conversation, and I know it now. But I'm actually talking about something in addition to the income stream. And then we can have a different conversation about what is a lot of money depending on where you live and your lifestyle preferences, which I think is worth unpacking, but put a pin in that for now. Let's just say, in addition to income, I'm also talking about, again, the way you calculate things like risk tolerance, right? So you guys are entrepreneurs, and so there's an element of risk tolerance that we all know is required for those of us who seek to start businesses, build businesses, and sustain businesses. And like a lot of my girlfriends who earn a lot of money and choose not to be in entrepreneurship, they do so because something that's really important to them, guys, is the stability. It matters to them to get that check every 2 weeks. And I deeply respect that. So this is not shaming people that work a job or have a career in which they get a W-2 for it. But this is just about me living enough. I'm 40 years old. I've been married and divorced. I've ended a long-term engagement that I was in, for, relationship for 4 years, cohabitating, and I've dated plenty. Okay, plenty. And thus I've been able to learn that the best match for me romantically and otherwise, if you're going to do life alongside me, I really do better, guys, with gentlemen that understand and appreciate risk tolerance, that like on those lean years, because we all know when you start a business, the first 3 to 5 years, easily you're taking a loss. And that's if your business sustains to make it past that introductory phase. Can you ride that with me? Or is it going to be a problem? And I speak from experience. When I was engaged to my first husband, he proposed to me and made a decision to want to marry and do life alongside me. I was a 6-figure earning attorney. I worked for a law firm. I got a big 6-figure relative at that time. I was like, 26 years old, a nice 6-figure check every 2 weeks. That is who he said, I want to be my wife. During our engagement, I made the decision like, you know what? This like law practice in this capacity is cool, but it's not really my jam. I quit my job And then I pursued what has now become a really blessed career in broadcast and all these things. But the point is, I took a massive risk. And that was not a risk that that particular gentleman wanted to take. He felt like it was very threatening. There was a lot of fear. And I'm just not doing that. I didn't do it then. It was a big reason that led to our divorce. And I'm certainly not going to do it now at my big age. So I think that it's important to talk through when depending on, again, your lifestyle choices, the ways in which you make money decisions, and how much risk tolerance, how much is autonomy important, how much is security important, how much is living in a certain space important, for instance, right? Like I live in Manhattan in New York. That's because that's the best place to do what I do at the highest level at this time. But if I need to be, I'm also in LA once a week for Judge Eboni. So there's a bicoastalness to my nature. Is a guy who is not in that same headspace for his own life going to be tolerant or appreciative of some of these big, massive lifestyle misalignments? And those are things I think we have to really be honest about, even if they don't sound so sexy or so kind.
Why do you think you get so much pushback on some of the quote unquote controversial statements that you've made? Do you think we're in a more sensitive time, or as a culture, do you think we don't like to hear the truth?
I think people really struggle with the truth. And again, it's my truth. So that's a truth that's truth. I think people have a hard time. I'm really glad you asked that question, Ian. I think people have a hard time holding the space for someone else's choice and truth to look different than theirs, without attaching judgment, condemnation, dismissiveness, and kind of attitude to it. So I think I get a lot of people in their feelings because I'm very blunt, I'm very Virgo, I'm very clear about who and whose I am, and the life that I already know God has for me. And I'm not coming off of that. But I'm also not dismissing, disparaging, or downplaying someone else's life choices and decisions. But I think it's very difficult for people to really believe the ability for two things to be true at one time. For somebody to say, hey, I'm not dating a bus driver unless he owns the bus. By the way, I never said like a bus company. You ain't got to own Greyhound. I never said all that. But anyway, but that's a me thing. And yet you dating a bus driver, or you being a bus driver, as my mother was for many years to help, contribute to our household when I was growing up, is not in any way a disparaging, dismissive, disrespectful commentary from me. I think that's very hard. I think when people see people saying things that are true for them or their preferences or their even mandates for their life, they automatically equate that with judgment and some level of negativity around the choices that they themselves may be okay with.
So let me ask you this, because before I did this, I was a financial advisor for 5 years, and so this is a financial topic. I noticed something. So 70% of my clients were women, and Black women specifically. So I noticed an interesting trend, and this is before it started to go crazy on social media and TikTok, where there was a lot of my clients were like 35, 41 type range, and they had advanced degrees, and they were like, they worked at corporate, they had like high positions in corporate, and they were making like $500,000, $400,000 a year. But a lot of them were single.
Yep.
They didn't have children, and they weren't in a relationship. So my question is, this idea of like the boss chick and independent Black woman, and has it
served us? Is that the question? Has that served us?
Helpful, or is it destroying the Black family ecosystem?
I think you have to say on some level it's destructive to a traditional Black family ecosystem. I think just the facts bear that out, right? So that's not feelings, that's not subjective. That's just the reality is, as you just pointed out, there is a huge numbers gap between Black women that are buying homes at almost twice the rate of single Black men, that are graduating from undergrad and professional schools at sometimes 6-7 times the rate of our brothers. And by the way, if you ask most Black women, that's not something that we enjoy or appreciate. Like, it's not a situation. And I think that's another misconstruction and a misassumption, that Black women are out here strategically competing against Black men. No, sir. Most of us want to be in relationship with Black men. And so it's in our interest, even selfishly. So not necessarily from this altruistic place of, oh, we just want to see our brother succeed. There's that for sure. But there's a self-interested element of that, right? That says, if I'm a Black woman and I want to have Black children with a Black man and live in a house with a Black husband and buy properties and travel the world and enjoy my life alongside a Black man, I would like him to be similarly positioned to me socioeconomically so that that partnership feels comfortable and feels safe from a fiscal place, and maybe some other places too. So let me just spend a little time on that, because I was talking to a very good girlfriend of mine who's one of your typical clients, as you described, early 40s, making, 500K plus, single, And there's a lot of thought that women like her, myself, even, of course, are materialistic. And that's why when we say we are attracted to this type of man, or we prefer to date this kind of man that has similarly, notice hardly any of us are saying we need a man to make more than us, or we need a man to take care of us, or we need a man to pay our bills. No, really, truly, hand to God, we really would love to be partnered with someone who is similarly positioned.
Well, can I just interject one thing? Because this is going to be controversial, but this is, I think, important. So the problem with this is that, all right, so a 35-year-old single woman who's making $400,000 a year, right? And that they're looking for their equal counterpart. And that makes sense, right? But it's like the difficult part about that is that the equally yoked man who's 35 that's making $500,000, he's probably already in a relationship. He's probably married. The ones that's not married, they're not necessarily looking for somebody that's 35. They're looking for the 28-year-old. So now it's like, okay, you're either forced with a decision to just remain single or look down. Now there is the truck driver. Now there's the UPS man who's a great man, but who's making $80,000 a year, right? Because now it's equal. It's hard to find that equal counterpart. Men, you could be 50 years old, and it's not. The age doesn't really matter.
No, and I've said this, and this is controversial, right? That because of the way society values gender roles, right? So the way in which we find a woman attractive, what are we really talking about under that? And it doesn't hurt my feelings. Let's just say it. People across the spectrum culturally, but we're talking about Black people, so let's center that. Black women are assessed around our beauty, our aesthetic, physical beauty, and there's biological reasons for that, and our fertility and our youth. Those are the main things that a man is going to be assessing when deciding if you are for him. And then it's going to be the quote soft skills. It's going to be, do you make him feel loved, catered to, loyal? Are you relatively non-confrontational, not too much pushback or challenges around ideas and decisions? And those are the things that would really make you just highly desirable in the dating market as a woman. Now let's go to men. What makes a man highly desirable in a dating market? It is going to be financials. It's going to be your ability to provide financially and fiscally. It's also going to be your physical, kind of your stature. Like there's a reason why, this 666 thing, I think that's really corny, but whatever. But there's a reason why a lot of women will swipe right on men that are at least 5'10", 6 feet. They want to feel there's some physical dominance coming from a man. Then you've got, just kind of age. There's a reason why older men, like you just said, bro, like 50 plus, that's not a deterrent for most women, because that presumes more stability. That presumes you've lived life longer and you can probably protect and know and help and navigate these spaces better and more effectively than I can in my youth. So you're right. Kind of the way in which we assess and evaluate value as men versus women create an inherent conflict. I will add one little caveat though to the scenario you laid out, where you've got these 35 and up women who've got these, big incomes and degrees and all this stuff, but we're not necessarily as desirable to the men that are our age and financial equal, which is why personally, I enjoy dating older men, because at 40, if I'm dating a man who's 56, there's more likelihood that he will appreciate some aspect of youth around me. Now, could that same 56-year-old get a 28-year-old? Absolutely, it's possible. But I'm living this. I'm not just talking and writing about it, guys. I'm out here living this, and I have been for the last 4-ish years since I ended my engagement. I do find that can be a sweet spot for some women that are in that like 38 to 45-year-old range. You know, dating older men can kind of give you back some of that advantage around you.
Because when I'm listening to it, I'm trying to figure out, there's plenty of women who are in that scenario right now when we're talking about socioeconomic factors. Is that the compromise? Or even, I don't even want to use the word compromise. Is that?
I think you better think about it. I think you damn sure, because I got girlfriends and sorority sisters that don't like to date those men. It's exactly what you said. They're 40. They want to date a 40-year-old. They don't have kids. They don't want him to have kids. Right. So one of the reasons, I'm sure we'll get into this, you guys know I've been very public that I am deep into my single motherhood by choice journey. I'm having my child as we speak. Like, that process is well underway. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is because I date older men. And you know what the situation of older men are? They've had their children. Their children are grown. Their children might even be in college or beyond. So a 56-year-old man, even a 58-year-old man, is not inclined to want to change Pampers and warm bottles. Okay, he's done that, right? So I'm not going to say, because I was doing that. Like, before I decided to do this journey, I was like 37, 38, and I was dating these like 52, 53-year-old guys, a lot of them in finance, a lot of them in, having businesses. And they were like, love you, definitely would be with you, would even marry you, but baby, oh no, no. So I kept running into that. Like, there were like 3 guys in a row that was the scenario. So it's like, now I got a decision to make. How bad do I want to be a mother? I had to assess that, because if that's kind of optional, then what he's proposing is a good scenario. Let's go live life, and I still boss out and be a great career woman, and we travel and go to the St. Bart's and Saint Tropez and live a great life. But if I really want to be a mother, and I had to make a different decision, which is let me go have my child, and then we can have more of a companion relationship with these older guys that have already raised their children and lived their lives. And that's probably the path I'm on. Yeah. But yes, to the front end of your question, what do we do as middle-aged, let's say that, let's just own it, right? Middle-aged Black women who are highly educated with these high incomes based on societal averages. We've essentially priced ourselves out of the market. And when I say, I mean, in a lot of ways, we priced ourselves out of the market in terms of our incomes many of the time. Because think about it, like, let's just talk. You guys are numbers guys for real, right? When you're talking about making $500,000 to $750,000 a year in some cities, you're talking about being in the 1% to 2% of income earners of the whole society.
Yes.
As period, not just as Black women, like period. Like, when you make $750,000 a year or more in New York City, you're earning in the top 1% of New York City, even compared to white men, compared to Black men, compared to anybody. So now that's a small pool anyway. And now you're telling me that I want somebody that's earning in the top 1% alongside me, and I want him to, potentially not have children and want to have more children. It's too much. So yes, we do have to start making strategic, what do you want to call it, compromises or settling or Mr. Good Enough, or I don't give a damn what you call it. But we have to start deciding what's important. So for me, being a mother is important. For me, maintaining a high income so that I can maintain autonomy and the ability to say no to any shit I don't want to tolerate is important. I don't give a damn who feel a way about it. It's important to me. Money is power, no matter who has it. You better know that. Okay. How many women right now, or men, are in domestically violent situations because they don't have the capacity financially to leave and go anywhere else, or they, would love to leave a unfulfilling relationship? Because I love how people always act like people that, are in that middle to low income range. They're all good people. They all love their mamas and they're all perfect partners, right? Get the fuck out of here. No.
For real.
Unhappy. Right. Let's stop that Tyler Perry bullshit. The reality is a lot of them are unhappy in those relationships.
They're stuck together.
We just spoke about this.
Literally, they cannot fiscally look at these interest rates. Look at these rental rates.
Can't afford to go anywhere.
New York, because I was paying $6,000 a month rent for a 1-bedroom apartment. Get the hell out of here. So let me go ahead and get this mortgage situation going. So those are some of the things. So you can't have it all. I don't care who you are, man or woman, but you can have a lot of what you want if you're willing to tell the truth about what that is and what that looks like.
You brought it up earlier.
Can I just add a follow-up? Well, not a follow-up, but a question, because we talked around protection, and some of the people are preparing to become married. And so there's two words that we always talk about. We read the headlines, but I don't know anybody that has actually taken place in them, and that's alimony and prenups. I don't know anybody who's signed a prenup, and I really don't know anybody that's received. I have. I don't know. So can you talk about, because even we spoke to Mary J, and we were talking about alimony, and we're kind of figuring out, like, how do they calculate for that amount of money? Can you talk about the importance of having protection even going into this business contract?
Let me just add some more context to that. It's a false narrative in the Black community as far as alimony and prenups. Like you said, I personally don't know anybody either, but that's because most
I think people are lying. I think y'all got some lying ass friends. Go ahead.
The thing about it is that, we're in a different space now, but we come from a working class environment. So we didn't know any millionaires. We didn't know a lot of people with a lot of assets. Now we do. But, growing up, we knew people that was making, $50,000, $100,000 a year. Those type of people don't really traditionally have prenups.
But they should. So that's put a pin in that. That's where we should start.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's something that I think. But what I do know is child support. That's something that I know a lot of people that pay child support. So the average person, probably even listening to this right now, is in that $100,000 range, a little bit above, a little bit below. So just to add some context to that, can you talk about the prenup? Is it necessary for that? And if so, how do you go about that?
Yeah, I think that's where the kind of the frame is, because people are just not aware of it. And so, like I said, first I have to have a lot of married friends, which a handful of them are married, but they don't even know the education behind the prenup.
Yeah. So let's talk about the fact that, this is not a conversation for the wealth class. And I think ultimately people feel that way because of the way it's been framed by those of us in the media. The very first prenup I drew up was for one of my sorority sisters, who between her and her future husband didn't even bring in but they were not clearing $200,000 between the two of them. And a prenup was a very good idea for them. Why? The gentleman brought in a couple assets into the marriage. And listen, most states and family law, which is what we're talking about, right, guys? Anytime you're talking about spousal support, which is another word for alimony, child support, these things, prenups, those are all governed by local jurisdictions, meaning state by state. And most states have basic statutes or laws in place that say when you bring assets to the relationship or the marriage, those are considered separate property pieces and they will be protected anyway. But why risk it, right? Because then facts get conflated, because in this case of this young woman in my story, she was going to be moving into his house that he had already owned indeed, still had a mortgage on it, but it was deeded to him singularly. So we would like to believe that it would be designated as separate property, but why risk it? So go ahead. That's something you want to put in a prenup. Something else to put in a prenup. What happens to your pensions? A lot of people in this conversation right now have great jobs from various municipalities and government. We're talking about people in law enforcement, people that are teachers, people that are in nurses, whatever it is. You want to make sure those things are designated. So yes, when you're specifically in that kind of like 65 to like $125,000 income range, prenups are for you. Let me be very clear. Prenups are for you. It allows you to designate, whether they're separate property, income properties that people might come into the relationship with. Because otherwise, if it goes left, or even if it goes halfway left, now it's a problem. Now it's messy. Now it's, I've added a new roof to a house that's in your name only. Where does that leave me? How do I recoup the equity that the home has grown in the 7 years I've been here contributing to the mortgage, or even paying the mortgage outright? See what I'm saying? So that's where a prenup is helpful. Now, child support, totally separate, meaning you don't even have to be married, as many people find out, to be designated somebody who's going to be responsible for child support. That has to do with the fact that you are legally the father. And let me be clear here. This is why paternity tests are very important. And I know, again, they're not sexy. How do you ask somebody you've been having sex with, probably unprotected, probably for some at the time, I need you to get a paternity test rather. Well, here's the problem when you don't do that. After a year in most jurisdictions, you are you are presumed to be the father. Like if you're the husband, you're presumed to be the legal father. And let's say you're not the biological father after a year, if you have not made that case legally in the court, you're on the hook financially. Child till 18. Yeah, period. So that also, you're not married. Young lady says the baby's yours. You say, okay, I'm gonna take it on the chin. I'm gonna be a man, step up to it, whatever your situation. You find out again after that year of time is run out. All the while, you were not the biological father. Too late, unless the new actual biological father is willing to take that legal responsibility voluntarily, which is very high risk. Because the government's position is, we're not trying to pay out Social Security or any other financial assistance to this child who, through our eyes, had a father upon birth. So y'all figure it out. That's the government's mentality around it. So you got to really be willing to ask some unromantic questions and really do some unromantic things if fiscal stability is the priority.
Inflation is higher than ever. Rent is higher than ever. We talked about this. We put a pin in it. But how much is enough money for each state? I know sometimes we'll say how much is needed to survive, but I think it would be great from your perspective, from your lens and your viewpoint. Like, how much does each person need to be financially comfortable or free?
I think in New York, just because, again, I've been having this conversation recently with a lot of folks, and folks, by the way, that are not in our industry. Let's be clear. I think a lot of times when we have this conversation kind of amongst ourselves as industry peers, to third parties listening in, it's like, okay, well, they're talking about, when they're sitting around talking to Charlemagne and Yee and, Weezy and Mandy and them. No. I'm talking about outside of our, right? It's not to all of them.
Yeah, shout to all of them, family.
Rich motherfuckers. We love you dearly. And now let's talk about some people that are not necessarily in that space, right? So people that are out here working jobs or in smaller businesses. The number is about 300 grand in New York, to be candid. When we start really talking about it, it takes about 300,000, somewhere like that. If you're making 250, you're living very comfortably. If you're making a little more, very comfortably. Once you get to me above the 700,000-800,000, now you're starting to talk about being in the upper middle class of a New York City or a DC or an LA. But if you're talking about those big metropolitans, San Francisco, LA, New York,
Miami,
Miami a bit, but I would say Miami is probably a little more on par with DC, where I would say 250, you should be better. But I only say that because of the housing. I'm only talking about places where your starter house, your 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo in New York is $1 million. In LA, your 2, maybe 3-bedroom, 1-bath, maybe 1.5-bath bungalow starter home is $1 million. So that's kind of where this is coming from. So if you want to kind of be in that starter home position, you want to enjoy the amenities of living in those cities. Well, nobody has to live in New York, right? And we get that all the time as New Yorkers, and I'm sure people in LA hear it in San Francisco, right? Why would you choose to live in one of the most expensive cities in the world? Well, because of the amenities, because I like being able to hop on a train and go one stop to Midtown and go to see a Broadway show. The Wiz is coming in a couple of weeks. Like that type of stuff matters to me. I like being able to go and have a 6-course meal at Michelin star restaurants. Those amenities are why you're here. But guess what? You're not enjoying any of those amenities if you're making $150,000 a year. I know that because I've made $150,000 a year and lived in New York at one period of time. And it was, I'm not going to be so kind of out of touch to say a struggle, as in I didn't think I knew where my next meal was coming from, but it was not eating out 3-4 times a week and running up bar tab. It just wasn't that. It wasn't going on vacations. It just wasn't that lifestyle. So if you like that, you need a good 300,000 in those metropolitans. Now let's go to some other places where we know our people are. Let's go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's go to Atlanta. Let's go to Durham, North Carolina. Let's go to maybe some other places in San Francisco. In California. They are not San Francisco or LA, kind of mid parts of that state and whatever, even Chicago, right? I think if you're making a couple $100 grand, even like probably 175 to 225, you should be living very well in those cities.
For sure. That's why you're the voice of reason.
Big facts.
Yeah, I mean, stop me when I start lying or sounding crazy, but that's what I've lived, and that's when I have conversations.
It's true.
That's what it is. So I think when we even talk about who the wealth class is, I think that even has to be adjusted for, right? A lot of us out here are just approaching the space where we're really entering that part of the conversation. So again, if we're talking about that level of income, why then would it make a lot of sense if we started this whole conversation, guys, with marriage specifically being a business transaction where you are jointly liable for both assets and liabilities? Why would a woman making $5 to $1 million of income a year be desirous of financially partnering with a very lovely gentleman who made $150,000 a year? And $150,000 a year is a lot of money. And in a lot of places, you could do a lot with it. But that 150 doesn't even probably touch that woman's tax liability. So now, and it's not just what that looks like. And I think a lot of people think that when they hear, especially Black women say that, it's like, oh, well, you just want to run to your little sorority events and your little, this gala and your Jack and Jill and all this shit and flex. No, we're talking about when it's time to put this child in Dalton or this other private school, what you got on it?
Of course.
What do you have on it, sir?
So let's go half on it.
Can you give me 40% on it? And it's going to be difficult when it's 160 coming in the door from you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
When my daughter's wanting to go on her ski trip with her fucking friends whose dad is Jamie Dimon, what do you have on it?
Ski trip may hit you for 17,000.
Easy.
So, and see, this is the part, right? So now y'all got me all riled up. Thanks, fellas. But this is the part of the conversation that, the nuance is found. Now, you could say, well, who the hell needs all that? And that's true. Nobody needs to go on ski trip. Nobody needs ballet lessons. Nobody needs lacrosse classes. But if that is your desire, and I'm gonna really piss the people off, if that's how God has called you to live, then why is that so demonized? There's a way to live out here, period. And when our favorite rappers and ball players do it, everybody celebrates it. But when you're just a regular comm major from A&T or
that works hard
engineering major from FAMU, you get shitted on because you aspire to live that way. And I don't like it. I don't like it.
We don't have to.
No, that's a fact. Wow, a lot to talk about there. But hey, I want to give a shout out to the AKAs. I believe
shout out to the AKAs. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. The pinky has gone up. I saw
that. The pinky's in full salute. Yeah.
Full salute.
We recently got honored by the AKAs, and my grandmother was an AKA.
I saw that, the honor. Yeah. Well, you guys, listen, I have a girlfriend who is got it, she's one of these great Black women, right? The MBA, she's looking at doing some career transitioning, actually, coming from the nonprofit space, getting into more of the financial advising sector. And one of the first resources, she's like, what are some resources? I said, earn your leisure. Boom. Like, just start there. Because if you're talking about where the culture is kind of baseline consuming this information and educating themselves and trying to either enter this conversation or expand and elevate it, it is right here in this. It's you guys. You guys have branded that in a way that is unmatched. And y'all know that. So, it means a lot. I'm glad to hear the Soars are honoring it and giving you your flowers because you deserve them.
Appreciate that.
So I do want to unpack the child situation because, all right, so you're on a journey of becoming I knew one person that did this before with
single mom.
With in vitro and
IVF. Yes, I'm on an IVF journey. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're doing that. So there's a few different ways that this plays out, right? Because okay, you're having a child and you're going to be a single mom, right? So my thing is, are you concerned that the child will not have a father in his life? Obviously, financially, you're able to support it, but from a male standpoint, whether it's a woman or a girl or a boy, not gonna have a father. But then also from a financial standpoint as well, like you had mentioned, private school, and I'm looking at private school for my son and $50,000 a year, and there's so many different things. So even if you have one strong income, I mean, it's still a lot. It's still a lot to put a burden on you. So there's a lot. Yeah, can you just unpack your whole rationale behind going through this?
My rationale is this. I very much want to be a mother, and I very much believe wholeheartedly, and if I did not believe this, I would not be going down this path. I actually believe that I have the resources. And when I say resources, yes, I'm talking about income. I'm talking about community of women and men, very much so men and women around me, the access to picking up the phone and being able to have conversation and gain information from men, parents, men and women who are tremendous parents. Like, I just feel positioned to be able to provide an excellent, safe, loving, abundant home for a child. And if I had even a single doubt about my ability to do that, I would have not even pursued this. So do I believe that every child should have a father? I do. Let me be very clear. I don't think anything about the erasure of fathers, or Black fathers in particular, is what we should be pursuing. But I also know enough to know, and have lived enough to know, and I think we all, if we're really being honest about it, know that the biological presence of a father is not the only way in which that can look. How many of us have had wonderful fathers who are not our blood? How many of us, I'll put my hand up, have biological fathers? Y'all may or may not know, I just realized found out through Ancestry.com and a genetic counselor who my biological father is, and opts out of participation, of active participation, right? So we know that those are not the only controlling mechanisms of what fatherhood can look like. So I've already started doing the work of recruiting, assessing who are those Black men specifically, because I'm having a Black child, I'm raising a Black child, my sperm donor is a Black man. So who are the Black men that are going to, willing to, and capable of showing up, not as fathers, because you can't play daddy to my kid, nor would I expect that, but to model what Black masculinity and that image and that role looks like in their life. So that is a part of this process for me.
That's very important. And, prayers for the successful journey that you're on. But one of the things that you fight for is equal justice and gender equality. So if we're talking about whether you have a son or a daughter, it would make a difference from a financial standpoint. And we know, the statistics for Black women, as opposed to Black men and white men. So talk about the fight for equity. I know New York City has put you on the Equity Commission. Talk about what the role is inside of there.
Yeah, it's continuing the work. It's all the things we know. We know what the pay gap is. We know for every dollar a white man makes, a Black woman makes around 67, 68 cents. And of course, we're doing the work, to me, on two fronts. So that is policy work that says that we're going to try to have as many policy statutes, laws, things like that make it illegal to discriminate or, show prejudice and levels of any type of gap around that. And also, this is why you see a lot of Black women going so hard in the paint. So something or maybe even two of you brought up earlier is this kind of phenomenon, really, where you've got an entire generation of Black women that many people would categorize as overeducated. We won't necessarily say over income, but certainly high income and alone, right? And single and unpartnered and unmarried, and some of us not even mothers yet. And I think that we need to unpack the history of why this has happened in such large numbers. I don't think it's an accident that there is this whole cultural cohort of Black women in this position. So you got to understand that many of us, just like many Black men, were raised by single mothers, either in fact or in practice, right? And the messaging that a lot of our single mothers gave us, specifically as the girls, right? Because we all know, and we can debate the merits of is it right or wrong or later, but the way people raise their daughters is different in the way than they raise their sons. So the messaging to a lot of Black girls of my generation, and maybe half a generation above me, and I don't know what they're telling these young girls today, but that's another conversation. Anyway, was go to school, keep going to school, get all of the degrees, education, and power you can in that capacity. Why? Focus, don't get distracted by boys, don't get pregnant early, so that you can control your own destiny, so that you can leave a marriage if it's broken and he's, disrespectful or not, faithful or violent, You know, so those were the things that were drilled into our consciousness. Many of us saw our mothers struggle. You know, I was a free lunch kid. You know, we come from some level of economic scarcity, right? So that's a reality for many of us. And I look at some of my friends, that Black women friends, sorority sisters included, that married kind of relatively younger, and a lot of them, I don't think it's an accident, they came from an upwardly mobile Black family, right? So they did not have an experience of struggle. So they still today are much more comfortable having an interdependence and a codependence even on Black men or men and their husbands when it comes to all the things. All the things financially, the home buying, the rearing of the kids, all these things. I think a lot of us as Black girls and women heard about these stories and certainly aspired to have the Cliff and Claire Huxtable. I know that didn't age well, but go with me. Lifestyle. But there's something that feels inauthentic about it when we go out there and try to really pursue it or live that duality of traditional Black family structure, because it doesn't compute with the messaging many of our mothers gave us, which was, you better be able to get it and stand 10 toes in it by yourself, because it might come to that. And if it comes to that, I don't want my daughter to be without. And I think that's where a lot of us are still reconciling that with the desires of our heart.
Let's talk a little bit about broadcasting. You're a broadcasting superstar. I've been known for a controversial take or two in my day. When you say that I won't date a bus driver, like, are you doing it to be salacious to drive your other points home? Because I think a lot of the other points that you make that are incredibly valid get looked over because of social media. Are you doing that to have a moment to make the message go further, or are you just speaking freely because you're in a financially free space?
It's the latter. I'm speaking freely because God is good all the time, and I've earned the right to be able to just say it how I mean it. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, owning is so important to me. Like, I really fucks with this ownership thing. I think people maybe now more so can really understand that, because I've had the ability, like I'm having right now, to expand on the points of why I am in such a love affair with ownership. And by no means is that for everybody. By no means does everybody go out tomorrow, quit your job, buy an LLC and start a company. Absolutely not. But for me, it's in my bloodstream. My mother was an entrepreneur. Like I was saying, she drove the bus. She drove the school bus in the mornings at 5 o'clock. So she could and then she would get off the bus and she would go to beauty school. And eventually she opened salons, and eventually she opened childcare centers. And eventually she bought 18-wheelers, used ones, for at that time, $10,000, $12,000 outright cash, and put men in them to transport goods, dry and refrigerated. And she did that and made a substantial living for herself for many years. So ownership, and before that, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He cut hair, he sold moonshine, he worked a job at a feed mill in Louisiana. So that's just that's in my bloodstream: hustle and ownership, owning things. So when I say I'm not dating a bus driver, it's number one, because let's get you out of driving the bus for somebody else, and let's just figure out what it would take for us to buy you a bus, because you can actually buy a bus, and that's not out of scope. You know, if we do this, if you're my partner, it's certainly not out of scope. So now we need to talk about what that, and then that can get dicey. Again, I saw this in my family growing up, because sometimes when the income gap is so significant, and see, this is why I don't recommend trying to close substantial income gaps in the confines of romantic relationships, because things start not making sense. Like somebody the other day was talking to me about, like, well, how would you advise a woman who made $500,000 to go house hunting with her husband who makes $75,000? I wouldn't.
You don't.
I wouldn't.
In the other way too. Yep.
And I was just going to say, and the other way too, which is why if you start talking to a lot of these, like you guys, and a lot of wealthy men and men in that 1% and up, because we know it's levels, you know, they're not partnering with those women. And if they are, and some of them are, right? Because I hear that all the time, well, he dates girls that wait tables and do this. There's a why there. Okay. And I'm not judging, because again, that's a man who said, I went to law school, I went and got my MBA, I did these things so I could earn $700,000, $1.2 million, $3 million a year, so I can be in exclusive full control. and she's going to go on vacation where the fuck I tell her we're going on vacation. Pack the bag.
Well, I don't think. Let me interject. Let me interject. I don't think that.
Is that
I'm about to have a moment. Troy, I'm with you. Hold on.
I got no arm in the race.
I don't think that that's a fair way to characterize the situation, because it's not so much of saying you're going on vacation wherever I tell you to go on vacation. I think a man's role traditionally has always been to provide, right? And a woman's work. So a man's a protector and a provider, and a woman has always been a nurturer and an educator, right? Now we live in a society where roles have changed a lot, and women have been able to provide sometimes for men, and men have been able to nurture, but traditionally, right? So as a provider and as somebody who is a protector, I think that it's actually, beneficial for both parties if somebody was like, okay, like, this is what we're doing. It's not so much.
I didn't say it was a bad thing. So it's important, right, that when we have this conversation, that we take at least when I speak, because I do get critique about this a lot. It's my delivery, right? So you probably heard the way I said it and presumed I meant something negative. I did not. I did not, because it's probably likely that the young lady who's in that we'll just call it more relaxed income bracket, where this man is the clear provider, probably don't have the skills to go and plan, a very nice, high-end, luxurious. I'm just telling you what I've lived, y'all. I'm telling you.
When you say don't have the skills, what do you mean?
Like as in not accustomed to that? Is that what you're saying?
Not familiar, doesn't have the resource. Y'all. Let's say we're going to Africa. Like, let's just say it plain, since y'all acting like y'all confused and y'all don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. So we're going to Africa, and it's Africa for 12 days. Okay, so this is not Vegas or Miami for 2 nights. Okay, this is Africa for 12 days. What is involved with that? Well, we of course want to do a safari. Okay, well, we want to tour wine country if we're going to South Africa. We want to go to Franschhoek. You probably need a driver, because you're probably not renting something from Enterprise, driving around Johannesburg. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having the lived experience, the access to know what goes into a certain cultural experience at that luxurious level.
But isn't that the beauty of it? Not knowing, and the man
that's what I think that she loves. That woman loves that. That's what I'm saying. It's not negative. It's at all. It's her.
There's a certain level of comfortability.
Let me just say one
I'm
thing.
just going to add to what.
But I just want to say, you said that woman, but wouldn't most women?
Most women would love it. But here's back to the conflict that you two specifically named earlier. The man that can provide that for a woman like myself or many of the women, your former clients, that man, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark and say that man is not chiefly desirous of a woman like us. He is preferring that 28-year-old that you talked about earlier. And that 28-year-old, not because she's a ditz or dumb or lacking in any way. I couldn't have planned those experiences at 28. And I'm smart as a motherfucker. Okay. I've been practicing law since I was 23 years old. It's lived experience.
Yeah. And I think there's a part of it that even at that level, right? If it's the 28, there's a level of comfortability of spending that much, right? Because that
this is a $35,000, $40,000 at least trip.
If your income is $60,000 and this vacation is going to cost $30,000, you're talking about half of your year in salary. So the mindset is a little bit different because you're not accustomed to that. I hear what you're saying.
That's all I'm saying. I'm saying you've not been exposed to it yet, likely, unless you come from wealth. That's the only caveat I think that we can add to this. If you were born in the wealth class, and there are Black people born in wealth, we don't talk about that enough either, I think. But if you were born in that, then yes, you can task that young lady with executing this type of experience. But other than that, this is a curation. The ability to curate that comes from somewhere. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Lived experience.
Mostly. Yeah. I've kind of played in a lot of these spaces. I've been the younger, educated, but not. So my former fiance, this was a very wealthy man, like New York wealthy man. So now you're talking about, 75 million and up, right? And I thought I was doing it big at that time. 350, I think I was making, working for a news network, which was good money. I mean, I was 33, 34 years old. But the power dynamic inside of that relationship, because I lived it, looked a certain way.
Where it's different.
It did. Yeah. So when he would say, we're going to so-and-so, you know, what am I going to say? Like, oh, well, why? Or, you know, and unless I can step up and really say, nah, fuck all that. We doing this. And here's, to your point, here's my 60K on it. And damn, now my little 350 looking small because this is the reality.
This is a real conversation.
Yes. I think it's very easy to have generalized thoughts and opinions and ways in which theoretically these things go. But when you get in it and you're in these trenches and you're living it every day, this is really what it starts to look like.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a
there
pleasure.
You have it.
It's been a pleasure. Before we leave, I will give you the last word. I know you have a best-selling book that you wrote, Bet on Black, and the good news about being Black in America. So let's end on some positivity, shall we? Yes. What is the good news?
It's been so
all of it's been positive.
This whole
just a little straightening, but all of it's been positive.
No, the whole thing has been
positive.
Yeah,
and back and like y'all don't enjoy the tension. Maybe that's what's wrong with me. I
didn't feel any tension.
I say that all the time.
Not tension, but like I love when he's like, whoa. I don't know if that's the framing. Like I think that's positive. That's the growth.
Let me rephrase it. It's definitely the whole conversation has been positive. I'm just saying, as far as just wanted to end on positivity. Not that we haven't had positivity, but like, you know, I just want to
end on an even higher note.
Yeah. So what is the good news about being Black in America? Because there's a lot of bad news about being Black in America. So for the last word, can you say what is the good news about being Black in America?
We're having this conversation right now that Black woman, polarizing as I may be in some spaces, got the call to be invited to a platform that literally touches millions of minds and hearts. And we got to sit in conversation as 4 Black people that I am totally convinced love Black people, love the skin that we're in, want to see nothing but ascension for our people, full liberation for our people, and expansion for our people. And we come from 4 different lived experiences. We were raised 4 different ways. And yet here we are being able to be in community with one another, share honestly and authentically. And I guarantee there's going to be a lot gained from the listeners. So that's the good news about being Black in America in 2023, 2024, is we get to do this in a way that would have been impossible even a generation ago, because we get to do it front facing. Not saying that people weren't having these conversations, right? Because we know, again, Black wealth class and Black wealth building predates emancipation even, right? But to do so front facing in this type of way is some of the best news about being Black in America today.
There you have it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Check out the show, buy the book, and we got to have you back sometime. Thank you.
Yeah, we got to have you back.
Great. Thank you so much for all that you do. Bye, guys.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my spirit. Right. Listen, I'm bringing a leather jacket back next week. Wait, and then imagine taking something on a trip, then they don't want to pack. See why I packed the roll up? What Dame do? What Dame do? Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. I almost forgot about that.
Oh, you want to pack? Okay, great. Pack it all up.
Pack what? Pack your stuff or just pack?
Yeah,
my stuff.
Remember that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay. You put it in your story and all that.
Drop the jacket off everything. Go home.
Entitlement.
Off season. Big facts. Talk about it, Shotty. Boy.
Nah, it's the real thing.
I'm old school, man. So what's your thoughts, Ian? What's your thoughts on this situation that she just specifically the latter part of it?
What part?
Well, as far as power dynamics, relationship,
it happens.
Younger women, stuff like that. You know, me, I'm old school. I'm old school. Like how I was raised is always like, you know, it's always gonna be traditional. I'm a traditional type of guy.
Me too. All this new age stuff, cool. I'm gonna be nice and be loving, but listen, the person with the goal make the rules. I'm gonna interweave some of the things you want to do, but it's like bring good energy. If I'm gonna provide, protect the other P that's really important, euro, pound, 7 vacations, but hey, act right got to come with that, and we have to act right.
Act right.
It's a seesaw relationship, and I feel like you know, it's up to the man to provide leadership.
Absolutely.
You can't have 2 leaders. I'm just being honest with you. You can't have 2 ruler. It's not gonna work. You can only have 1 leader, and in times of executive decisions, the executive makes a decision. That doesn't mean that other people's voices aren't heard and they're not valued. They are. But
But at the
leadership
end of the day,
is important.
Yeah,
Leadership is important.
If this was a vehicle, if this is a plane, if this is a car, there's going to be a driver and there's going to be somebody in the passenger seat. The advice, the counsel is important, but if two people grab the wheel, we're going to lose control of this thing.
Yep.
So we got to work together, and sacrifices has to be made, but understanding is important, and communication. Like they always, what's the success? What's explicit and honest communication?
Yeah.
Well, then also, I'm gonna be honest with you too. There's going to be a breakdown in governance if you're not strong enough to be a leader. So
absolutely,
you can't expect somebody to lead. You can't expect to lead somebody if you yourself are not a leader.
Can't lead. You can't lead well.
If you don't know where you're going, if you have no vision or you have no roadmap to know where you're going. So I think it's important for men to actually work on themselves and their leadership abilities, and that's financially, that's morally, that's goal, that's communication, everything. Because a woman can't lead a man that's not a visionary. That's going to be difficult.
And they don't want to. All the women have to deal with, they want to come home and parent a grown ass man. Even when I'll get I got some pushback on the Royal Mall comment. I'm like, I can tell what a net worth is by how you react, and you don't even know me in real life. Govern yourself, lead yourself well, and if I led myself to prosperity, I can lead anybody else. If I made you money, please us in chat. But me and Rashad on dictator vibes 2024 through.
I'm for dictatorship. Yeah. I'm off. Look, dictatorship is not a bad thing. As long
for real, I'll listen to you. Co-pilot,
dictator. As long as it's
one ruler.
I promise to be one ruler. I promise. I have always promised to be a good king, and not a tyrant. I will not be a tyrant, but I will be a wise king, and lead in the right direction. That's important.
Yes.
I lead by demonstration.
That's important.
A kind king.
A kind king.
A loving dictator.
Lead by demonstration.
A loving dictator.
Yo, yeah. I'm just waiting, man. I can't wait till all these marriages that are coming in the next 5 to 10 years, man. I can't wait. I want to sit front row for all of them, yo.
And for everybody that's I know, because I already have the crystal ball.
I already know.
It's like, what does it have to do with finance? Well,
she told you.
F is everything. It's the biggest decision that you're going to make. And for me personally, I've been through every aspect of a relationship, every aspect. So I understand how financially, I was able to overcome adversity, tremendous adversity that many people are not able to overcome. Could have broke me, but
you got good friends.
So I know from firsthand, of course, I know from firsthand experience how decisions can change or impact your financial well-being, your financial future. So, and like I said, this isn't theory for me. This is actually what did he say? You ever
real life experience?
You ever say inside a federal courtroom? Like, you ever had to sit
for your life?
You ever had to sit in front of a judge to them tell you what you should be doing? Like, it's not a good feeling. So I understand every aspect of that, and I know firsthand that we could talk about stocks, we could talk about real estate, we could talk about cryptocurrency. Look, let's be honest with you. Everybody is at one point is going to be in a relationship. Everybody's going to take some chances that they shouldn't take because of love and lust. So yeah, you take those chances, and there's consequences that come with it.
Yes, that's
that's
a fact.
My favorite metric, not to cut you off, to look at if a relationship is going well, is my bank account going up while I'm in this relationship or down.
Very important.
I'll tell you everything you need to know. This person is healthy for you, if they're loving, if they support you, or if you let go, do you accelerate or decelerate? My barrel shot.
Yep.
Pick the right one.
Yeah.
Yep. 100x return if you pick the wrong one. If you pick the wrong one,
he spoke very candidly about the importance of this decision. It is a decision. It's a business decision. I always tell teenagers the biggest financial decision that you're going to make is deciding what school you're going to go to. But the next biggest one will be who you date, who you choose to date or potentially marry. Because
who you loving, who you want to be cuffing.
It could cost you. It's costly and it could cost you.
And we have to have more honest conversation. I know a lot of times people get mad at direct conversations, but what do you want us to lie to you? Like I keep saying, money won't buy you completion. I've been broke. It buy a lot of happiness. Well, I'll be in Mexico smiling my ass off.
It's like Kanye said, having money is not everything. Not having it is.
Big facts.
That's just the facts of life, man. When you don't have anything, that's the only thing you think about.
Oh, it's tough. Them some depressing days too, boy.
It's
if you live in America, for sure.
Yeah.
Like if you live in other countries, you might be able to live a life of just fulfillment without having to worry about money. But if you live in the United States of America and you black,
survival mode.
If you don't have it, you're gonna think about it, and you're gonna be reminded. You're gonna be
learn a
reminded
lot
that
in
you
that.
don't have it.
You learn a lot in those situations. Like you learn mental fortitude, you learn grit, determination. Sometimes that's where you get very creative because you want to come out of that situation. So there's a lot that's learned inside of
those spaces. Yeah,
and
determination, and also not taking the work for granted. That's exactly. One big thing. Like not taking the work for granted. Even people like, yo, how you work so much? I'm like, this is play to me. Like the fact that I even get to, JP Morgan. I remember like when Art Basel first got popping, I'm like, it'd be dope to go. Now I get to do something with JP Morgan. Y'all came support. I come support y'all. It's like, that's some dream shit. We're living like an NBA life without playing in the league. Love the work though. I don't see enough people love the work every day. And it shows up. Love the work. Yeah. Any tips for them to make more money since we had this conversation? And I know some people are going to have some pushback on it. Any 2 tips to make more money in 2024? Might clip this up. She should have came on costing me broke while we playing.
Fact, man. I mean, it's always been the same thing, as far as if you can't be consistent in anything that you do, you're gonna have difficulty. So I feel like, we talk about so much stuff all the time. There's no magic wand that you're gonna wave and just become a millionaire overnight. But if you grind, then you can do it over the course of time. It's a marathon. So I think the biggest thing in life is just being able to have that fortitude to just stay down, and not get too high on your wins, not get too low on your losses, and just maintain that calm, even kill type of vibe, because you're gonna have to grind it out every single day. Isn't it? It's there's really no days off. Like no matter what you do, it's like no days off every single day. Every single day, you're gonna have to go to work at some capacity and do work every single day. And if you're not willing to do that, then that's okay too. But I mean, you can't expect to be great if you're not willing to actually do something every day for at least 10 years. So
facts.
Yeah, educate. I think
Christmas day off, but watch the NBA game on Christmas.
Yeah, they already
do.
The education part is important too. I think like even what she spoke to, right? Like she got degree after degree, the education part, but outside of just scholastic education, like education on your own, right? Like when we're talking about 300,000 is the income, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who aren't at that salary level, but like what separates that? It's a level of education that you put, whether it's inside of your profession, your business, or on your own investing, right? Like that never stops. So even like the teacher, which is the background I was in for years, it was all right. Yeah, I've mastered this craft, but I need to learn more. I need to learn more about other things, because if that's my salary now, how do I get to that level? Right. That's why I said a lot can be learned inside of these survival mode scenarios. It's like, all right,
absolutely,
I'm not satisfied here. How do I get there? And I think that the key is always going to be education.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, it's been real. I'll save my my city list for next week.
Might change.
No, it won't change next.
You're not gonna change it?
Not next week. It's gonna change in a week.
You might get a call tonight.
You never know.
I'll save my city list because it's important. I'll do this every quarter. I'm updating this every quarter.
12 is at midnight. We're getting a new project from the boy.
Kanye West.
Oh, for real?
Great one.
Yeah, 12-8. That's what they're saying.
Yeezy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, shout out Murder Beats. Congrats. Shout out Hitmaker. Congrats.
Timbo's on it. Timbo's on there.
Shout out Timbo.
Timbo's on there. Yeah, Vultures. Him and Ty Dolla $ign.
Yeezy. The boy Yeezy back at it.
And shout out to Nikki. Let's not do that. Shout out to Nikki.
Shout out to Nikki. Yeah.
She did some numbers with
she got a few in there.
Yeah, Pink Friday came out. Did some numbers. Shout out to her. I haven't listened through the whole thing, but congrats on that.
Yeah, shout out to Nikki.
It's almost over, y'all. We got one more week of Market Mondays. Then we're going to Ghana, Africa for 12 days, as she said. Safari, you might see a safari, you might not. You never know. You never know. What,
perhaps.
But I don't. I may be on the way. You know what I'm saying? I missed the first 2 UAE trips. I ain't missing the third.
You never know. Shout out to all the ladies out there. Definitely. I think that was an important conversation to have. Black women earning a lot of money, trying to figure things out. Shout out to everybody that's out there. Shout out to all of the housewives. Shout out to all the single moms. Shout out, whatever you do, this, everybody has a role to play.
Be great at it.
But me personally,
Khan King and
what? There's an awkward pause there. What happened?
Just old school. I'm always gonna be old school. I'm always gonna be old school. I can never appreciate this new age. This new age that's been pushed on us, especially our culture. I feel like it's only our culture when you see, especially women that demonize men or like put down men. You never see any other culture saying that, like you don't make enough money, you're a broke boy, you doing this, you're doing that, like da. Like I have never seen any culture actually vocalize that and try to demasculate men at that level, and that's done. It's done intentionally. And it's done to cause division, and nobody really wins in that situation. So, like I said, there's traditional roles for men and there's traditional roles for women, and those can be, changed because we're in a different society. But I still think that even if you're not in that traditional role, you should still honor each other and not. And the same thing for men as well. I don't really know too many cultures where men have traditionally put down women so much. This goes back, shout out to Snoop, but even Snoop, like, was it back in '94 when he said what he put tricks and hoes, and it's pretty disturbing language, and that's something that has been carried out even to this day. And we've definitely put down women a lot in culture, and women have put down men a lot in culture, and that's created a very dysfunctional society when it comes to especially Black people. And once again, there's a lot of reasoning behind that. There's a lot of historical issues behind that. It's not something that just came up overnight. The music industry is definitely a part to play in that, a major part to play in that. Movie industry, major part to play in that for sure. Where we've normalized dysfunction. We've normalized dysfunction, like fighting, arguing, stealing people's cell phones, regular day at the office. And if you really think about it, that's not something that should ever happen. And it's not something that's normal, but it's not something that you would even bat an eye at. You see somebody cursing each other out, you don't even think twice about it. And that's because, once again, we've normalized dysfunction and we've been desensitized to dysfunction. And that's extremely unfortunate. And you go to other parts of the world in different countries, and that's not the case. So
how do you combat it? Here's how. Empower, encourage, salute, partner,
be loving.
Get a passport.
Be loving.
Get a passport.
No passport bros vibes.
No, not passport. And
residents in other places.
As men,
not the passport bros vibe.
Not the passport bros, but as men.
No, listen.
Hold on, last thing. As men, lead by demonstration.
Lead by demonstration for sure. Passport. Shout out to the passport bros. I'm definitely familiar with it. But when I say being a passport, I'm not necessarily talking about passport bros. I'm talking about when I keep saying it's almost over. The reason why I keep saying that it's almost over is because it's almost over. It's almost over. So when this thing is over, I'm moving out of the country. So
I keep telling you, international host, Mexico, Africa. It's almost over with. America's shit show right now.
We're fighting. What I realized, I had an epiphany. We're fighting a war that we're not going to win. It's just by pure numbers, right? If you look at from a statistical standpoint, we're outnumbered, and then you're never gonna get power. People in power aren't gonna give up power, and how can you take power if you don't have enough numbers or enough money? You're not gonna. So it's like bumping your head against a wall, right? And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and we've been doing the same thing over and over again. So what I realized is that it's probably not gonna happen. To be honest with you, in America, we could put up the good fight, and we have been putting up a good fight for a long period of time, but I just don't see it happening. So, all right, now it's time. Sometimes in life, you got to know when to say when. It's not going to happen in America. Well, the earth is a big place, and there's multiple places outside of America that have opportunities. So
seen a few.
Yeah.
Seen more than a few.
So
gonna see more. And gonna see
arbitrage. More. National arbitrage place. Got the Matty J.
You got to move around. You have to know your exit plan in life. That's important. And you always got to know what's next. That's important.
Before it happens.
For sure.
Before disaster strikes, shout out to Bus.
Shout out to Bus.
Shout out to Bus.
Have to.
What's
I
the
like
name?
Ebony K, yo. Dope energy.
She's dope. She's like I said, the voice of reason. She
Yeah.
says a lot of good things. She says things that, like she says, she's blunt with her delivery, but a lot of stuff that she says is
It's true and poignant.
spot on. She's like,
And there's so many people lying on social media. When a person tells the truth, it feels like it's awkward or wrong. Like I say all the time, I don't like conflict, but I prefer to have the conflict so we can get to the bottom of what the real issue is, so we can have a resolution.
Explicitly honest conversation.
Have to.
Yeah.
And what's the alternative? Not to make more, and then imagine if you're 27, you move to a big city, you can't afford to live anywhere.
No.
Jersey. I went to Jersey City last time I was in New York. I'm like, this don't look like the Jersey City I visited in 05, 07.
Increasingly difficult. Yeah, it's increasingly difficult to even afford it. So I mean,
anywhere.
Most people are now just rooming. Like I got 2 roommates, and that's cool until then you begin.
Oh, boy had 8.
Who had 8 roommates?
Wow, this guy's crazy.
Don't get me started. Hey, when I put the leather jacket on,
Where area of the country were they?
They were
Atlanta?
Espiritu Santo. Espiritu Santo.
Crazy. I had to
What's
mute
that
it.
network looking like?
You, man.
Y'all be talking that shit and be broke in real life. Stop playing with me. Next week, I'm about to turn up.
Nah, we can't.
Yeah, I hear y'all talk. All y'all clout babies, all y'all view babies. Quit talking to me about podcast numbers. And let's talk net worth.
Hold on, let me get the camera correct. All right, here we go.
Let's talk net worth. Forget all of you babies and listen. I knew when. Listen, next week. How you a multimillionaire and the 14 roommates look like a frat house?
They brushing their teeth at the 7 a.m.
Lying, yo.
Oh man,
who's that in the background at 7
a.m.? White stove, white microwave. What?
Nah, that's crazy.
All right.
White appliances in the crib that's different.
These are just jokes.
Yeah, we just joking.
Yeah, we just joking. What can we do?
Change the bathroom curtain.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been real. Shout out to
bathroom curtain is ill.
Market Monday, December 27th. We are 2 weeks away. Get your tickets. We will be in the motherland. One of those places. Who knows if it goes right?
Wait.
If it goes right, I may not come back. That's an option.
Perhaps.
That's
may not come back.
Perhaps.
That's also an option.
Me for 6 months is buy a house in Joburg.
Send my thing. I'll send my things.
Facts.
For real.
It's been real. All right. So Asset Over Liabilities tonight.
Yep.
Shout out to Cam Newton.
Yes.
Earn Your Leisure tomorrow. Shout out to Loon. Get your tickets to Market Mondays, Ghana, December 27th. Billionaire Kevin will be in the building.
Yeah.
Another
billionaire.
And we got a few other guests as well that we will be announcing in the next coming weeks or so.
Yes.
Congratulations to the Lakers. LeBron. Shout out to him. Shout out to Bronny James. Was that actually Iguodala's son that he blocked?
No.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, it wasn't his son.
Because they said it was that was
that would have been crazy.
His son is having nightmares just because the shout out to Iggy. Shout out to
Iguodala. Good brother.
Good turnout. The Vegas thing that it looked like it went well.
One last thing. So
shout out to them.
University of Pennsylvania president resigned. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
So she went in front of Congress. They had an anti-Semitic hearing in Congress where they had leaders. They had the president of all these top schools, Harvard, Penn,
and Yale, and
they was like asking them about anti-Semitism on their campus.
Yeah,
and they asked the president of Penn, and I don't want to misquote this, but they was like, it's calling for the extermination of Jews. Unacceptable. Like I don't want to quote it because I don't want to misquote it. But long story short, I think she was like, she said something about it. It depends on the context of how the speech is actually spoken.
If the speech leads to a crime,
it depends on the context, variety of different things. So a lot of people were unhappy with her answer, this goes back to money. One of the donors, so University of Penn has a lot of wealthy donors, obviously. One donor, I forgot his name, billionaire. Maybe we can research it before the show is over. He was gonna $100 million donation to the University of Pennsylvania, $100 million. He put the university on notice that the $100 million will be pulled if she is not removed. So at first, the university was like, we
Ross Stevens,
that's his name.
$100 million.
We have to stand by the president. Within two days later, I got a notification yesterday on my CNN app. The president resigned. So that's what I'm saying as far as power. If money is power. $100 million. I don't care how much they like you.
Power,
you can't, bro. What we gonna do?
All three presidents. They're trying to get all three presidents to resign. So the president of Harvard and Yale.
Well, the one specifically, the
one at Penn is. Yeah.
But Ross, Steve, he was $100 million. That's just one person.
Yeah,
that's just one person.
Bill Ackman's back on his shit right now. You see him?
Yep. Yeah. Bill, you better stop. Person square. Be a circle.
Back at Harvard, it's like, yo, listen, y'all ain't do nothing. We're gonna up the ante now.
Up the ante for what?
It's the same way that money was pulled out of Penn. Now they're trying to figure out how to get it to Harvard until the president resigns.
Black woman. As soon as the black woman gets in office.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's why I said, man. Look, we're fighting a battle we can't win. Be honest with you. So.
Yep.
It's not gonna happen. It's really not. It's really not. I don't see how. Like I said, people in power are never gonna give up power, and don't have enough power to take power.
Or capital.
Go where you're welcome, not where you're tolerated.
Biggest lesson I learned this year.
So Ghana, here we come.
Here we are. Africa,
here we come. Hey.
That being said, Ghana, here
Africa,
we come.
Here we go.
Ghana, we on our way. We are on our way.
It's gonna be hard to do a review video in Joburg. Review the water in Cape Town.
That's a fact. Well,
it's been real, y'all.
Been real, ladies and gentlemen. See you guys next week.
Yes. Enjoy. Be good to each other. Reach out, call somebody. Make sure y'all checking on your people. I know it's the holidays. Checking on your people. More than ever. Love is love.